Sound check 1 2 1 2. Sound check 1 2 1 2. Welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. Hold on 1 second, got the volume a little too high. Let me bring that down a little bit. Don't want to be yelling in your ear. Sound check 1 2 1 2. Oh, whoa, got a background playing in the background. Hold on 1 second. Welcome in, welcome in, welcome in to another SR51 Media Show. I am your host, SR, founder of the SR51 Media Empire, the 51 Dynasties community, and the Green Load Screen Podcast. This is the Green Load Screen Podcast, episode 3. I am your host. Hopefully you're having a good day today. If you're not, hopefully it turns around for you. Okay, we got some time on our hands right now, only about 2:50. Looking to kind of have an end time of around 5:30, 5:45. So we're looking at about maybe 2-3 hours at max. And then I'll be getting you up out of here and enjoy the rest of your day. I am feeling gamish. I have some time off. Basically, I don't have anything really on the schedule like that. So expect a night stream from me tonight. I'm going to get some food in my stomach. I got to make dinner. That should take maybe about, I don't know, roughly about 45 minutes to an hour, something like that. And then after about 45 minutes to an hour, eat, chill, relax, let it settle in. Looking at a night stream, looking at something for the adults, to kind of hang out, teens as well, looking to kind of hang out in the night, play a game with, I'm still debating about what I'm going to play. Maybe by the time we finish this podcast, I'll have more information about it. But yeah, just as any updates to start the stream off before we get into the topics. As you know, the Green Low Screen podcast will be available here on YouTube exclusively. All live gameplay will be available on TikTok. as far as the video on demand goes, now I noticed that in my last what do you call it there? I noticed in my last stream I attempted to download the TikTok stream like they told me I could, and it just wouldn't download right. Now, I don't know if that's because, I stream 3 or 4 hours. I don't know if it's because of just how you're doing it. But what I plan on doing today, right? What I plan on doing today is testing out when I do the stream later tonight. I plan on testing out recording the stream while I'm doing it. So that way we have a full, video where we can just go ahead and just upload that to YouTube, how I used to do back in the day. So I'm going to try to fall back on one of my old methods to make it more, let's say, easy to do, so that way we can continue uploading content to YouTube and uh, having everybody be able to enjoy the stream together. I understand that right now, a lot of people are in situations where, it's getting ready to be the hot. Let me bring this volume down a little bit more. I know right now a lot of us are in situations which aren't bad, but, a lot of us are, as people have work, school, kids, gaming, and other responsibilities and just enjoyment that we're doing, and we maybe can't sit through a 2-3 hour podcast or maybe sit through a 3-4 hour gaming session. So I will be trying to make that available on this channel. I missed the first episode or so there of the gameplay. That was because I tried to download it. I even let it download overnight, and when I got up and stuff, it just didn't finish. So I guess I'm gonna have to revert to recording. Um, I don't know how much stress that's going to put on my system. I used to do that. I used to, but I had a different PC setup back then. So we'll see if it works out. If it works out, expect tonight's stream to be posted tonight. I'll let it just go ahead and work in the background and stuff like that. I don't really have a problem with that. And yeah, because I'll be up for a while and it shouldn't take more than a couple hours to upload if it records. So we'll see. The only requirement with that is that it does not impact the stream. So what I mean is basically as long as it's not something where basically as long as it's not something where the stream skips or it stutters or it jitters or anything like that, then I will go ahead and record it and be sure to upload it to YouTube. If it does, then I'm probably going to look at another method of recording and kind of figure it out and all that. But you know, when the time comes for that, you know, we'll go ahead and deal with it. As of right now, one second. As of right now, one second. Still picking some lunch out my teeth. As of right now, that's the method I'm going to choose for tonight. Hopefully it works. You know, hopefully it goes through and everything like that, and we're able to, you know, go ahead and go ahead and get it done, and then we'll have an option for that. So, also, I want to thank everybody that's been supporting the stream. Thank you to everyone that watched it back on playback. Thank you to everybody that was here live. Thank you to everybody that liked it. Everybody that, you know, reached out and commented about it. I greatly appreciate it. Like I said, I will be doing this weekly, at least once a week, but the majority of the time, I will be doing more than just one episode a week. I do have a little bit more time on my hands, and I do have some opinions about a lot of things that go on. Not those type of opinions where it's just like just thought. A lot of it is like based in fact and like, you know, kind of things that I like to talk about, things that like a lot of people are not focusing on while they're focusing on something else, you know? Like instead of just say repeating the echo chamber of, you know, what you can read on Twitter or what you can read on, you know, Instagram or something like that. I mean, don't get me wrong, I have some of those topics in here, but a lot of them are like, hey, did you know about this? Or hey, are you looking at this? Because I think as gamers, sometimes we can kind of get caught up in the headlines and forget the actual information, you know? So, the first topic, jumping into things, my current stance on this gen and next gen hardware. Okay, so you know, bring you up to speed if you haven't already, you know, listened to previous posts and streams and stuff like that. Like I said, I currently own a Xbox Series S 1 TB. At the same time, I felt as though, you know, at one point I had the X, and I've made the decision that um I want to get an X. Okay. Now, today is literally the 31st. Okay. Excuse me. Just got finished some lunch. Good lunch, but it's still settling basically. Um, Today is the 31st of July over here in the, you know, greater Northwest, and at the same time, basically, I'm not running to nobody's store today to, you know, try to cop a system to avoid a price increase that at the end of the day I realized, you know, weeks ago, hey, if I'm gonna do this, you know, I'm gonna have to eat that cost. You know, I'm just gonna have to go ahead and basically, you know, take that cost into account, and it is what it is. Now I currently do have two options that I'm looking at. Possibly go into my local GameStop, which I, you know, without getting personal or nothing, I do have a good relationship with the people at GameStop. I've been a pro member for a long period of time now. I think I've been a pro member probably since they off. Well, I should say off and on, but I know I've been a pro member for at least like 5 years or more, right? And the thing about it is they have never screwed me over. You know, like when people talk about prices and stuff, I think they lose the understanding, you know, just to say people have never worked in retail or anything like that. They don't understand that the people behind the counter don't set the prices. You know, um, to explain that in a sense, basically, What that means is basically when you go into your local GameStop and let's say you say, um, let's say you go into your local GameStop and you say, hey, I want to trade this console in, right? And this console I want to trade in, I want to trade it in towards something else. And they tell you, okay, this is how much we're going to give to you for it. They are not actually the ones that have decided to say, hey, this is how much we're going to give you. They enter it into a system, and when they enter it into the system, basically they get told, hey, this is the price that give to the customer. Basically, it's kind of like saying, um, in a sense, like in an example, like take anything like a PlayStation or Xbox or a Nintendo Switch or anything like that. When you bring that in, their job is to basically test it to make sure it works. And because that's just fair to other customers. You don't want to take in something that doesn't work and put somebody in a bad situation. But their job is to take it in, test it, make sure it works, and then basically package it up, send it back to the warehouse, make sure it's straight, and then resell it when it comes back. The whole aspect of people saying, hey, they screw you over and they don't give you good price. Myself personally, I've noticed with things like, being a pro member at GameStop and stuff, um, I have noticed that basically I get a fair price, pretty fair price. I haven't really been much into physical sales as far as like like game sales go or anything like that. I used to kind of move around in that world a lot, where you like get a game and then you buy a bunch of disc games, play them for a while, and then package them all up or whatever and go get what you can get. But I have uh I have gotten to a point where basically I only buy games that I'm interested in, and the majority of them are mainly digital. Not because I have anything against physical, but at the same time, I know myself. Like I'm one of them type of gamers where like I don't like popping a disc in and out. Like that. That's something that a while back, like once the whole like digital thing kind of took hold a little bit, I got used to just being able to be like, okay, I'm playing this game. Okay, I don't want to play it anymore. I'm gonna go to the menu, quit out, go to the next game, and move on, right? And then also there's situations where like at night or you know, uh, there are situations where in the night or in the afternoon, you're maybe sitting on a couch or you're in a chair far away from the TV, and the last thing you want to do once you get comfy is like get up and walk across the room to take a disc out, put it in, play it for a little bit. For those people that play like one game and one game only, I could kind of understand that. But for like me, I'm the type of person where like I'll play like, a couple of hours of Madden and then maybe be like, hey, I want to jump into, say, Skyrim or, I played a couple of hours of Skyrim. That was cool. All right, I want to get a race or two in, a Crew Motorfest, and that's 3 games. So to get up 3 separate times and change the disc 3 separate times is not something I like doing. Will that impact my Xbox Series X purchase? Not so much. I'm not really upset either way, because right now, my current opinion on the current gen situation is a lot of people are discovering that Xbox is better than what I think a lot of people understand, I think it's one of those situations where, and it's not like a jab at, PlayStation or Nintendo. I mean, they're going to do what they're going to do. But I think a lot of people are starting to understand that, like, I mean, first of all, the whole physical thing, I've addressed that a little bit. Let me say something. It's not about not caring or like not caring about, other people. And it's not about like not caring or mm, it's not about like not caring or, not having thought when it comes to other gamers. It's really about being in the type of situation where basically um I think that's just where we're excuse me. I think that's where we're kind of going as a gaming community. I think that there's only excuse me. I think there's only a matter amount of time. Excuse me, drunk some water kind of fast there. I think that we're only at a matter of time before it's kind of like the CD DVD thing. I remember when there was a time where you could go to a music store and they had, the latest music from, artists all around the world. And some of them also had like DVD sections and stuff like that. FYE was very big at the time. I think that was probably like one of the biggest CD and DVD stores was FYE. If you wanted a very good DVD collection, as far as like myself, I was into King of Queens. Still, I think it's one of the best shows to ever be created. Great show about marriage that doesn't have to do with kids and living with parents and things like that. So what happened was, I had bought a DVD set from FYE, and at that time, when you bought a DVD was about 15, 16 bucks, right? But if you bought the TV set, which TV had just started to do, where they would sell the TV set in a box, where you could buy like the seasons and stuff like that. It would be like maybe like 40, 50 bucks. And I think at the time there was like a FYE membership where you could get the DVD set for like 10% off. So you would only really end up paying like 30, 40 bucks and you would get like a whole season. And at that time, like a whole season was basically like, essentially what you see on, what you call it? It basically was like what you see on, TV now, like, well, back then I think TV was more like 15, 20 episodes. We kind of getting shortchanged a little bit. I mean, that's probably a different topic for a different day. But we kind of getting shortchanged a little bit here with some of these TV shows because like we're going from like 20 episodes down to like 5 episodes here, 6 episodes there, or 8 episodes here, and then 8 episodes later in the year. I feel like because they don't want to give us the full 20, and then like with shows that I really like, but which take like hella long, is like, like you look at something like Game of Thrones, great TV show, but like it took like 3 years for that thing to, come back out with new episodes, and then I'm pretty sure they'll do the Knights of the Seven Kingdom or whatever it is there, and then they'll go missing again for another 3 years. And it's like TV didn't used to be like that. Like TV, you could count on like, okay, they came out with a season, next season they come out with this season, and so on and so on and so forth. But I understand that it costs more to, make these things, and it costs more. So I say that to say, I remember the era where you would buy CD and DVDs, and slowly but surely, I don't want to say I remember what killed DVDs, but I think what killed DVDs was Netflix. I think Netflix was because this Netflix predates really all streaming services, right? And that goes for everybody, like Apple, HBO, Paramount, all that. Like Netflix predates all of that. And I remember when shout out to my cousin, if he ever hears the stream or whatever, both of them really. They were like, yeah, excuse me, they were like, yeah, you gotta try this you gotta try this Netflix thing, cause you can get the DVD mailed to your house instead of having to you can get the DVD mailed to your house instead of having to go to the store to get it. And I was like, wow, that's revolutionary right there. Because who really? I mean, yeah, at the time, do I feel like we could still use something like a Blockbuster? Yes, in a way. I think speaking to the physical world, I do think that if there was things like a Blockbuster, mainly for theater movies, like that stuff, like you see so many movies that say only in theaters, and then you find out later that they bombed, like they basically just like came out, a couple people watched it, and then you hear, which is coming, becoming more of a common thing. You hear the actors and the directors going, "Oh, well, people didn't watch it because of wokeness, or people didn't watch it because of this or that." People didn't watch it because nobody really goes to the theater like that, bro. I mean, yeah, for mega titles things like, Michael Jackson and the Doomsday Avengers and Odyssey and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure people rallied up. Supergirl, Superman, Spider-Man, stuff like that. I'm pretty sure people rallied up to go to the theater. But when you advertise for me, when you advertise like a general movie, that's like some stuff where I'm like, this seems like something I could watch, either that same movie or a different version on the streaming service. I'm just not with it, right? So if they had more of like a Blockbuster where you could like, go to Blockbuster and pick those titles up, I think it could bring it back. Now, can they do that? I don't know, because of the fact that theaters make a whole lot of money off of things that sometimes are not the movie. Like basically the arcades that keep kids entertained before and after the movie, popcorn, soda, candy, ticket sales. These are things that if they struck a deal with Blockbuster to put the movie in, a lot of people might be like, hey, well, I'm just gonna wait till it comes, to DVD or whatever. So and you know what? Give me 1 second as I back out of this one person stream, because I thought I was watching a Skyrim stream, and then they seem to be using mods. That type of thing where like you just change the world, and that's not necessarily what I'm looking for. I kind of want to see people play the game and see kind of how their take is to it. Okay. So yeah. Um. It's one of those things where I don't think they could do that. So the reason why I dove a little bit into the physical and digital worlds, because like I said, I think Netflix killed DVDs. Um, Myself personally, I think I don't want to say iPods, because I know MP3 players came out beforehand. I think MP3 players killed music as far as like, you know, buying CDs. Because once you realized, hey, I could have this little small device, and basically pay, what was it? I could have this little small device, and this small device can carry, anywhere from a couple hundred to a couple thousand songs, depending on how big your memory was. A lot of people moved away from, not to say buying CDs. I think they moved into buying CDs to download them to their MP3 player. And then I feel like the iPod and iTunes really just buried them. Spotify and iTunes, I think they just buried it, because nowadays I know I can't remember the last time I bought a actual album of something. Like actually physically went and bought a CD album, or even um like bought music, because you have the services. Like who I don't really see the need myself to buy an album when uh excuse me, most music I want to listen to, like people like T.I., Ludacris, Cardi B, Offset, the Migos, Meek Mills, Will Smith, all the way down to music, country music, movie soundtracks, Patti LaBelle, Pointer Sisters, The Gambler. These are all things that, at the same time, I don't actually have to buy the physical disc of. I can just like, because I pay the service, download the song and just add it to my collection type thing. So I think when you think about gaming, I think they're in that same point as far as the industry, where they're starting to realize like, okay, this thing is going away, and we pay more for, in a way, it's like we pay more for the service to print the disc than we actually do for them to absorb the disc, in a sense. You see what I'm saying? I think it's one of those things where, to be honest, you know, do I feel as though they should completely take it away? I can't call that, because, for some people, which is understandable, a lot of people have, thousands of discs, and I mean, myself, I never really got to that point. I think I have like 2 discs I'm looking at right now in my drawer. One of them is Project Gotham Knights, and I never opened it, because of the fact that the same day that I got it for like, I think I got it for like $8 at GameStop, and then like I literally got home, and before I even played it, like the next day they had a sale on like Black Friday or something at Xbox, and I got it for $8, and I was like, okay, so I'll just keep this disc, because there's no resale value once something like that makes Game Pass and stuff, right? Things like Madden, Assassin's Creed games, NBA 2K. These are things I stopped buying on disc years ago. So I think that it's in a way it's understandable. The fact that they want to move away from that. I don't think it's going to be lightweight. I think it's going to be the same pushback as it was when we moved away from physical DVDs and physical DVDs and CDs. Like how I mentioned before, I think there's going to be a lot of pushback to something like that. I think a lot of people are going to be upset. I've heard a lot about, people going, hey, well, I'm just going to go, PC and stuff. Myself to speak on that, frankly, the reason why I never really, went to the whole PC world, I mean, don't get me wrong, I own the Xbox World Gala X. It is a PC slash console handheld. But the reason why I never went, 100%, PC setup is because I feel like what is not talked about with that is that you spend way more than you ever do with consoles, right? Like, I hear a lot of people going, oh, the next Xbox and PlayStation could be, $1,200 and you could build this rig. And it's like, okay, but here's my thing. When you build this rig, just a simple question I have, right? When you build this rig, will this rig be capable of 4K 60 frames per second or 4K 120 frames a second? Because I'm pretty sure it won't. Like I'm pretty sure a 4K 120 frames per second HDR, and I mean I know I'm forgetting a lot of stuff that these consoles come with, so don't. I'm not the technical guy. I leave that up to people like Colt and others. But shout out to their content and stuff. Nothing against them. Listen to it and everything. They have good news and stuff. But yeah, at the same time, I'm pretty sure a PC setup to play like 4K, 120 frames per second, HDR with an SSD drive in it. I'm pretty sure you ain't building that for the $1,100, bro. Hell, I looked at it myself. At one point I was like, the damn case itself, just for the damn stuff to go in it, is like $400-$500, and that's for the plain looking one. That's not even the nice ones. The ones with the glass and all that crap. Not alone. And then let's be real. I mean, am I a builder? To be honest, I'm the type of guy where, like, I mean, yeah, the chair I'm sitting in, my hand to God, the chair I'm sitting in right now, my gamer chair that you see me sitting in, I built that myself. Not like built it from scratch, but you know how you buy something, you have to assemble it? Yeah, I did that. But am I going to buy like, here's the thing about it. One thing I learned is that, like, let's say hypothetically I was to spend $1,200 to $1,300 on computer parts, right? And I had it all shipped to my house, and it was time to put it together. From what I know and from what I've seen, just messing around in computers and back in the day, hypothetically, some parts come with them little prongs, those little like I guess you would call them like I mean they're called prongs, but to try to describe it to you, think of it like how like a centipede walks, right? Imagine the legs on the centipede being little metal wires, right? And you have to put that stuff in a slot. Now, in putting that in a slot, if you break off 4 or 5 of those connectors, that piece is broken, right? And once that piece is broken, that's it. There is no resale value. There is no, hey, I'm gonna go on, offer up, or I'm gonna go on a pawn shop. That's just a dead piece, right? And and hearing people going soldering and all sorts of stuff. I know there's a lot of prepackaged stuff that I know people might point out in the comment section, like, hey, you can just put this together like this, and I respect that. But at the same time, I don't play with my money like that. I'm not gonna spend like $1,300 and run the risk of losing it all, because frankly, if you break a hard drive, or if you break a graphics card, hell, ain't graphics cards like $1,000? I mean, I ain't completely caught up to date with every one of them, but I'm pretty sure a 4K graphics card is like somewhere around like over $1,000 just by itself. So when you do that, it's something different with like a console where like um take and this goes across the board, whether it be Xbox or PlayStation. You buy that console and it does 4K, it does 4K all the time. As long as the game comes built that way or has that option, it does 4K HDR out the box. Put the game in, play the game, period, turn it off, go away. Whereas like in a PC standpoint, a lot of times some games will not release to it. Like take Grand Theft Auto. Grand Theft Auto, Um, in some people's eyes, I don't, and I'll get into it why I feel differently about it. But in some people's eyes, that's the biggest game they've been waiting on for since the creation of indoor plumbing. You know, and basically that's not getting a PC release. Not saying ever, but right now there is no conversation about a PC release, and you might get to a point where Grand Theft Auto Online comes out and there's still no PC release. So to be in a situation where you spend $1,500-$1,600 to play this next gen title, and then one of the biggest games that's coming out this generation is just not coming out with a PC version would piss me off. So I think that kind of changes the aspect there. So when people are like, well, I'm just going to switch to PC, at the same time, PC's not even physical. There's nothing about PC that's physical. Everything's digital, whether it be Steam, GOG, BattleNet, Ubisoft Connect, EA Play, all these things are digital rights management games. And I mean, some of them are licensing that you own or whatever, but it's still not like a physical disc. It's not something that you put into a console. That's the part that I think for some people that are collectors, you got to watch what you collect. It's like the what was that thing that came out there for a while? The pop socket, or not pop socket? I'm trying to remember the name of that thing. Bobblehead, or I got two of them on my desk too. Um, I'm trying to remember the name of these things. It's like the little enlarged head action figure thing with the big eyes, right? With things like that, they were the talk of the town for pop Funko Pops, I think is the name of them, right? They were the talk of the town for like a good while. Everybody was making them damn things. Not like different companies, but like every movie or game or action figure that came out had some sort of Funko Pop, right? I remember seeing streamers having like hundreds of them Johns in their background, right? And now basically they're more of a collector item because of the fact that they don't hold that value anymore. So if you bought like, let's say somewhere in the neighborhood of like 100 something Funko Pops, right? And you like, oh, I want to sell my collection. Well, at the same time, you're gonna sell it for way less than what you paid. And that's something that I pay attention to a lot. Like what I buy, what is the buy off if I ever wanted to sell it, or if I ever wanted to step up in that category. And that's some of the stuff that I think is pissing people off more is the fact that they have never fully embraced digital, and because they have never fully embraced digital, that basically they're mad, and it's understandable, but they're pissed off. Um, what you call it? They're pissed off because of the. I just got a text. They're pissed off because of the fact that um they will never get that value back. And I mean, I would caution doing something like that. Hell, I would caution buying every game that comes out. Period. And we'll get into some games that I like and don't like going forward. But I don't think you should buy anything blind. I don't think you should say I'm gonna do all of one thing. I mean, at some point you would have had to, as any gamer that puts in time, whether and I'm an Xbox guy, so I'm gonna stick to Xbox. I sensed that this was coming somewhere around the time of like I want to say Xbox One, right? Around the time, and I'm gonna turn this chair around a little bit too. Yeah. Around the time, and I need to get up and get this water. 1 second. Give me 1 minute here. All right, I'm back. Had to grab me a couple waters here. Um, so yeah, the thing about it is, I've never seen um a situation where like in Xbox One, like did I buy a lot of physical games? I was a member of GameFly for a while. When I was a member of GameFly, uh, great service. I think they do great things for people that don't want to necessarily buy every new game that comes out. But I think that in a way, the postal service that supplies it sucks. And that was one of the things that made me back away from it because, take I'm trying to think of a game that I was waiting on. Take a sports game like NBA 2K, right? NBA 2K comes out like September 1st, and you're waiting till like September 15th or so to get the disc. Not because they're screwing you over, but because of the fact that, what do you call it? Mainly because of the fact that the mail takes snail mail in a way to get to you. So in that capacity, I didn't really see the need for it anymore. And that was kind of more the beginning of me saying, okay, I'm just going to go digital. Now, like I said, speaking on current gen and next gen, when I go to buy, Lord willing, this next Xbox, am I going to be like, okay, I have to have the all digital version? No. I think, to be honest, um, it comes down to availability. Right now there's a massive run on consoles everywhere, countrywide. I think that due to the fact that what you call it, I think that due to the fact that people are now having more funds as far as, liquidated income, we like to call it adult money. I think a lot more of us with adult money are starting to make the purchases that we didn't make or wanted to make months ago. Things go on differently at that time. You know, I don't know how everybody else is, but in the beginning of the year, you have things like Christmas layover in a sense. You have Valentine's Day, and then 9 times out of 10 you chill until like the summer, and then in the summer you're looking more towards like vacationing and um whether that be taking a family somewhere or just spending money, enjoying the summer, eating out, going to movies, things like that. Um, and you really don't make bigger purchases until like closer towards the holidays. I know myself, I like to make bigger. That's why I said with a purchase like this, I like to make purchases like this before the holidays so that way I can focus on family and friends. Like I don't like being, it's uncomfortable to me as a husband and as a son and things like that to be like, okay, I'm going to focus on myself at Christmas, regardless of whether I'm working, whether I'm not, or whatever, if I am working or if I'm not on a job or something like that, wherever I am in life. I'm not a fan of being like, okay, I'm going to focus mainly on myself. I like being like, okay, I may grab some stuff, whether it's big or large purchases. I may grab those sorts of purchases for myself before the year is out. But I like to kind of have that, like my birthday's in October, and I like to kind of have stuff like that wrapped up by like October. Now in November, would I still make purchases for myself? Yeah, but they're more on like the smaller side of things. Like a game, for $100, or Black Friday's games for some money, but like an actual full blown system or whatever in that time of year, no, I don't typically do that, right? So my opinion on the current gen, to be honest, is there's still life in it, and I think that I can't, I don't think anybody really at any point knows how much exactly next generation is going to cost. Okay, I think that speaking as if I could say anything, speaking as an Xbox Roll Guy, like X owner that dropped the G on that thing, I wholeheartedly believe myself that the next Xbox is going to cost $1,000 minimum. I don't think they go anywhere below that. I know there's a lot of, nothing against them. I know there's a lot of fellow content creators and a lot of fellow Twitter tweet people
X platform people that believe, they're gonna pop the disc and they're gonna they're gonna pop the hood and they're gonna take this chip out and they're gonna make it with this plastic. I would encourage you to watch something like Silicon Valley, which shows you how a product goes from basically how a product goes from conception to actual product release, and understand that typically when you're this far along in development and you're basically almost at a ship date, there is no change again, because there are certain contracts that are signed with people, whether that be the people that make the chips, whether that be the people that make the plastic that goes in the hardware. These things are not made like this is 1910 or something, where like it's all made in America or isn't. Nah. If you look at, like, a lot of times, and I've seen documentaries on this sort of stuff. I watched it. I'm still in the middle. I know it may sound wild. I'm still rewatching the Xbox documentary, and one of the things they say is basically how what do you call it? One of the things they say is how basically, the parts were coming from all around the world. And I'm like, okay, that didn't stop. You know, they didn't basically say, okay, well, we're only gonna get the parts from Virginia. And we're only gonna get the parts from Kansas. Like this stuff, you got chips coming from this country, you got plastic coming from this country, you got components coming from this country, then it's all shipped to one country that may do the assembly. Then you got maybe another country that may deal with delivery and stuff. So this is a worldwide project, and at that standpoint, a lot of things have already been signed, typically in dotted lines that say, "Hey, I'm gonna," I saw something I'll get into later where they said, Xbox has like 100 million active users daily or monthly or something like that. Okay, let's just shrink that down to, let's say you got 50 something states, right? Okay. Let's say out of 50 something states, let's say there's 1 million gamers, which is typically less than how many people actually live in a state. But, let's say 1 million gamers per state, right? And we're just talking America here. That means they have to have at least 50 million consoles ready to go next year. Okay. Now, whether they sell 50 million doesn't matter. They have to have the 50 million, because if they sell, like, say for whatever reason the next Xbox just takes off, right? And everybody loves it, right? And they in the course of loving the next Xbox, right? They end up buying 20 million of them, right? And then they don't have a supply stock to supply for the next, let's say, 8 months to a year. That could open the door not only to that could open the door not only to PlayStation, but that could open the door back up to Nintendo. That could open the door back up to Steam. Hell, that could open the door back up to mobile computers. There's a lot of different ways that people may say, because people are fickle. Some gamers are built that way, where they're like, they go into the store to necessarily buy the new Xbox or whatever is not available. They settle out for a PlayStation, or vice versa, or a Nintendo, or a mobile tablet or something like that, and that's a lost sale. So, like I said, in things like Silicon Valley and other shows, you see that these contracts are sold. Excuse me. These contracts are signed years ahead of time. Now, are there certain features that they can take out to basically lessen the cost of the system? Um, to be honest, yes and no. And the reason why I would say that is because I'm pretty sure myself that um if they were to hypothetically, like, let's say hypothetically they had the idea of making Steam a built-in store, right? And let's say they say, okay, we're gonna go in there and take that ability out. We're gonna take the ability for you to stream Steam out of the box, and you have to go to your phone to do it. I'm pretty sure after like all of 6 months of this daggone system being out, somebody gonna go into the kernel or some form of what you call it? They're gonna go into the kernel or some form of basically computer hardware, because there's always people that do that. Okay, there's gonna be some way where some dude is gonna go into the hardware system, code side of things, find the code that they didn't want you to use, reactivate it, and then it's gonna be this whole like, I guess you would call, like, what do you call them things, like side load, or it's like called side load, or jailbroken, or whatever what they call it thing. Like, I don't even think they could do that. Not saying that they can't take it away, but I think they open themselves up to people being like, okay, well, I'm just gonna add it back myself. Then, even with that conversation, as far as like, them taking Steam out, look, I've made comments, on people's comment section. I've made my own comments. I want access to those storefronts, but it's not a deal breaker. Like, I myself, I understand that there's a lot of people that have, hundreds of millions and hundreds of millions of games invested across other storefronts. Myself personally, the majority of, like, I probably have over 100 games, and the majority of my 100 or so games that I have recently purchased, not including sports titles, are mainly on Xbox. On Steam, there's maybe like, I want to say maybe no more than 20, right? And it's nothing against it. I love the games. I think they have great purchases, but that's not really a deal breaker for me. I never buy a console based upon what the third party is going to do, because third party to me is games that I'm going to mention later. That's what I consider third party. Like, I don't consider third party to be like Steam and stuff like that. And I also realize that with them making a console, they have basically become a competitor. Whether that box is successful or not doesn't matter. The second that it's kind of like the second you start competing against me, then in a way I may not want to run with you as much. And I may let, people access your stuff on my box, but I may not give you an actual storefront because I don't want people buying your stuff over my stuff. So I think that at the same time, to be honest, I think that, we're at a situation where we have to wait and see. So what I did was, and, giving a little secret sauce here of how I operate, I spend a lot of my off time when I'm not like gaming, or when I'm not actually, I spend a lot of time when I'm not actually gaming, or I'm not, in the middle of cooking or something like that. I'll spend a lot of my time staying up to date on information, news wise. And one of the things I heard was that, which I figured, but just was waiting to hear, was that Xbox is going to support the Xbox Series X and S for at least another 2-3 years. Okay, so I'm like, okay, so let's figure that Xbox says, hey, we're gonna, bring out the new Xbox in 27, but but they say at the same, would they say that on stage that they're gonna support the Xbox Series XS for 3 years? Probably not. They probably would want to give the impression of, go buy the new console, but I'm pretty sure whether it be IGN, or whether it be, any of these other outlets, Windows Central, anything like that, people will ask that question to them eventually. Like, okay, so does this mean that you're not, supporting games on PlayStation, on Xbox Series X and S anymore? And they're going to have to answer up and say, no, we'll still be doing that for 2-3 years, but they'll try to advertise it in a sense like, well, basically the new console will do this and yada, yada, yada. And I think that in the past, for me, like when I was watching the Xbox documentary, I noticed that they mentioned that consoles that came out at that time came out for about, I think the original Xbox or like the PlayStation 2 or something was like $373. And the wild part about it is, with Xbox celebrating its 25th anniversary, I never really remembered the prices, because you're talking 25 years ago. I don't know how many consoles and hold on one second. My bad there. I don't know how many consoles and game purchases I have made up to this point, but I know that, there was, in a way, like basically too many to count. But when you hear that, like the consoles, when you remember and hear that, okay, the consoles used to go for, $373, and back then for $373 you got the console, a controller and live for like 3 months or something, and now we're in a situation where you're talking what 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, possibly 10. So you're talking 700 jump in 25 years. That's a lot, man. You know, and you gotta keep in mind 1,000 is the base. That's like the what everybody's hoping they come in at. They could easily step up and be like, it does this, and it costs $1,100. You know, are they gonna phrase it at 1,100? No, they'll typically phrase it around like, and it costs $10.99 or it costs $11.99. Right? They always go with the 99 because they try to like keep that higher number from being displayed on stuff. But you also have to take into account things like, I mean, I don't know. I know there's places like, Oregon and Delaware and stuff that don't pay tax. But, I live in the greater Northwest. My other family lives in like, Hawaii and my wife's side of the family lives in places like Hawaii and Vegas. And I have family that lives in Philly. She has family that lives in New York. We have family that lives in Jersey where there's taxes, And when you're making a possibly $1,100 purchase, that tax is going to be, hell, what, a phone is like $1.75. So you're looking at bare minimum $100. So now that $1,100 purchase turns into possibly a $1,200 to $1,300 purchase, not including an extended warranty. Because who the hell's gonna buy an $1,100 console and you don't have any warranty on this thing? So that's what I'm talking about. Where the console itself may only cost like $1,000 or $1,100, but by the time you slap the warranty and the taxes on it, you probably leaning closer to like $1,200, $1,300. And here's my thing. I have had this stance. Myself personally, I don't punch at other content creators, but I know for a fact I have been in other people's chats and in streams where they've said, the next PlayStation isn't going to cost $1,000. If it does, I'll do this. I'll shave my beard. I'll eat a hat. Or the next Xbox isn't going to be $1,000. I guarantee you that. And then it's like now they're accepting that because like more and more information has come out about how it definitely is. Nobody's happy about that. Nobody's like jumping for joy that we're going to pay more for consoles. What it is we're recognizing everything goes up, and when you look at the economy, here's my thing. When I say the economy's trash, I don't mean that directed at like a specific party or a, specific politician or anything. It's just where we are, memory. Like one of the main reasons that made me double back to say I'm getting an X over a memory card is because when you average out the price, like you're talking to memory cards nowadays, like I don't even think you could get a 2 gigabyte anything. I mean, gigabyte, excuse me. I don't think you could get a 2 terabyte anything for anything less than like $300. And that is ridiculous. Okay. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care whether it's a damn memory card for your damn PlayStation Vita, your Nintendo, your Xbox Rogue Ally, or your Xbox Rogue Ally X. Go look. Okay. You ain't getting a memory card unless you want to get 200 gigabytes, which is useless. Because let's be real, hell, Call of Duty is like damn near. Hold on a second, let me make sure I don't have any messages here. Okay. Unless you go, you go get something like what Call of Duty, the latest Call of Duty. That damn thing is like, last time I checked, like for all the attachments, it was like either 137 gigabytes or like 230 something gigabytes, right? And then you got stuff like. For me, I would highly doubt that if Call of Duty in the size that it's in is 130 something gigabytes, that Grand Theft. Let me turn this light out too, so I don't need this light. I would highly doubt that if something like Call of Duty is 137 gigabytes, that Grand Theft Auto, potentially one of the biggest open world games out there, is not over 100 gigabytes. So by the time you add it up, right, you got Grand Theft Auto at 100 gigabytes. You got Call of Duty at 150, right? You got NBA 2K at 100. You got Madden at damn near 100, right? You're already at half a terabyte, right? So you have to buy a terabyte or 2 terabyte. I've said it on, to family and friends. A terabyte is the new 500 gigabytes. Back in the day, 500 gigabytes used to be a lot because you could get a lot on there, but you always needed a little bit more space, but you could live with it. Whereas like now, a terabyte is basically the new 500 gigabyte. And I think they know that, Did they want it to be that way? No. I don't think in any way, myself personally, I don't think in any way, shape, or form they wanted something like this to happen because it impacts their sales. It's something that forces them to raise the price on certain things. But that's due to the fact of how I like to say it, for people that have never really seen The Wire, it's like my man Marlo said, the price of the brick done went up. Now, like I said, this is a, completely, adult stream, so I can say it, hold on. Hold on a second, like from one of my greatest, from one of my favorite shows of all time, and what I feel as though is one of the best shows of all time, I'll give it to my man Daniels to let you know what it's hitting for. This is bullshit. Because the thing about it is, that's ridiculous. Like when you really look at it, a Nintendo Switch is probably like, I was just my hand to God, because I'm in the greater Northwest and everything. I'm pretty sure Costco's everywhere, but I was in like Costco and I was like, how like you come in the store and you're like, oh, let's check out the electronics section. I think they're probably one of the smartest people in the world to put the electronics section like right there by the door, typically, where it's like you can come in and you can go, oh, let's go see what y'all got. Then you go food shopping, or then you go clothes shopping, or couch shopping, or whatever you're looking for. But I say that to say, like, I literally, my hand to God, just saw myself on a sign that Nintendo Switches were going like for like $519, right? And I'm like, okay, if you're talking about a memory card at like $378, by the time you slap, tax and shipping on that, you talking about probably like $420, $430. For that John to be $60 less than an entire damn game console, that is ridiculous. Okay, and if they're saying that it's not going to come down in 5 years, if it's still not going to be down in 5 years, we are screwed. Okay, don't get me wrong. I know I'm laughing about it, but it's like laugh with pay type thing. Like we are screwed. Like we're some things you have to bite the bullet for, and some things you have to realize that it is what it is with that. Like I think we're solely at a point right now where there's no chance in hell of this thing coming down anywhere to, and I'm not even saying that as like some insider or with some under the cover information. Like you can literally look it up. Like tech analysts have said this thing is not coming down in 5 years. It has nothing to do with what do they say when they say current administration, because I don't do the political stuff. I leave that up to other content creators. Current administration basically means whoever is your president, governor, mayor, House of Representatives, and all that crap right now. What that means is whoever you vote for in a couple of years will not be able to change a damn thing because of the fact that only a certain amount of people make it. It's like basically the price of the brick then went up. Only when you control it like that, you can set the bar. And they set the bar very, very high. And they're not coming down because they know 9 times out of 10 in the next probably about, if I had to be honest, probably about 6 or 7 years from now, I can see it coming down to at least a normal price. Because of the fact that so many people would have like absorbed so much digital content where they'll need services like that. But you also have to keep in mind, how do you know that Microsoft doesn't say something like, hey, we're introducing a service where you can pay us $20 a month and get 4 terabytes worth of hard drive in a cloud or something. Before you discount something like that, realize, and I'm not trying to give like, Xbox, like, don't get me wrong, that would be a smart idea, Xbox, actually, if you're listening. But, Matt Booty and Greenberg, listen up. But, that would be a great idea. But I think that also at the same time is also a dangerous idea because typically, like somebody like Apple has invested billions into that and they really, really maintain that. I think that's different for them than it would be for like a Microsoft. Because the first time that somebody, gives you, let's say, 2 years worth of money and they have, 3 of the 4 terabytes filled out and you wipe their hard drive or you lose their cloud or lose their progress or something, that's going to be the new daggone, and we all as gamers remember what it was, the red ring of death. It'd be the new red ring of death. So they probably wouldn't go nowhere near that. So that's why it's probably like when they say 5 years, they mean it like it's going to take that long for companies to start making them. And it has nothing to do with just being made in America, but just being made when there's competition, when there's like, 5 or 6 other companies that pop up that make memory and make RAM and stuff, it can drive the price down because basically those 3 companies don't have that much control anymore. Then they have to compete. They can't just say, well, it's going to cost you $378 for a 2 terabyte memory card for your handheld, because basically the guy next to them has just the same amount of reputation and says, I'll do it for $150, $200, So right now they don't have that. And what you got to understand is it's not easy to spin something like that up. You're talking about regulations. First of all, you're talking about building the facility, getting regulations. First of all, you got to think about just building nowadays, because some of the weirdest stuff I've seen is people against things like data centers. Like, what are we doing? Like, I want faster data. Like, don't get me wrong. I love my internet. Thank God. Me and my wife joke around all the time, but it's the truth. Thank God we're able to have, the internet we have from like from what we have and stuff like that. But I would love for this stuff to be quicker, if it, and it's fast now. So to be able to be in a situation where it's like lightning fast or something, bring the data centers on, and people are opposed to stuff like that. They're opposed to regulations, they're opposed to tax benefits, all this sorts of stuff. There's so much red tape. And then you got to also think about the product testing and earning the respect of the industry and stuff. That's probably like a 5-6 year thing. So it ain't going to change, just because you vote for somebody different, or because, they had a Black Friday sale. Yeah, it might come down like $20-$30, but it's not going to come down like $200-$300. They're not going to eat a cost like that, and that's why I said, like, because it ties into the topic. It's not just a random thing. That's why I said with, like, current gen and next gen, I'm like, okay, so basically I could get current gen at a price of like either, like, a lot of options out there. You have the whole I'm trying to remember the name of it, Xbox All Access thing, right? That you can get for like, what's like $35-$50 a month. Now I'm gonna tell you like this. Before you discredit something like that, realize that a lot of us older adults with adult money, right? We grew up in the era of things like layaway. I know a lot of people may not have never did it, right? That's you. Myself personally, I was a big fan of that back in the day, because basically it was like, I'll give you a quarter of what the price is and you give me the product right now. Or when it first started, it was like, yeah, say hypothetically, I'm trying to think of something that most people lay away. Take like, yeah, let's stick with the game conversation, right? Take like something like a gaming computer or a game console, right? Back in the day, when you would, and when I say back in the day, like I said, as you can see, born in 86, so anytime between 86 and now, right? That you would consider back in the day. Back in the day, you would put something down, and then you would have to make a certain amount of payments before you were able to take the item home and then continue making the payments. Whereas now, which is even better than what it was back in the day, you make the payment, they ship the item out right away. You just have to continue to make the payments. To me, if you can get a, brand new in the box, brand spanking, all the, how they had what do you call it there? I'm trying to think of the name of it there. The openings, the box openings and all that, right? If you can have a brand new, ready to go box opening Xbox for all of like $40, and then I'll see you again next month, that's a great option. Then at the same time, you have a rival to them and like a GameStop where they're like, hey, we'll take your console, we'll take all your old controllers, all your old games, and we'll give you, $200 to $300 off the console. It's like, damn, I'm like, okay. That's bringing the cost down to either basically at this point, what I'm probably looking at paying is probably, not saying looking at it like I'm negotiating or something. I mean, in a way, yeah. But like, what I'm probably looking at paying is probably like what, either $50 down and a payment every other month, which only averages out to probably like $200 for the rest of this year, right? Or maybe like $400, at GameStop, and also having a warranty for like 2 years on the damn thing. So to me, to pay $400 for a memory card when I could pay, either $50 or $400 and get the whole console, I might as well go with the console. Like myself personally, I'm a type of person that's either around the house or in the streets. Like right now, today, tomorrow, I'm around the house. The day after that, I'm not one of those like always out the door things because I'm one of those big like I don't like being away from home too much unless it's like a vacation or something. My wife moves around because of different obligations that she has to her business right now, but my stuff is more like home located or like around the area or something like that. So like today, right? I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna bust some grub, have some dinner, stuff like that. But then after that, I'm like, prime example, where I am in between, I have the playoffs in Madden, right? Which I really want to play because I want to see how the season ends for this team I've been putting together for a long period of time, and I want to win a Super Bowl before Madden, the new Madden comes out because my season had got corrupted and I had to start over again. And I also at the same time it's nothing against like a Assassin's Creed, but as much as I love those franchises, like I tell y'all, I never come at it like, okay, I have to play all of it now. Like it's one of those like when I feel it, I want to play a thing. Right now I'm kind of feeling more the sports. I'm really feeling like, especially with me not having to like shut the podcast off at night or nothing like that. Being in a situation where you can like chill, kick back, maybe have like a adult chill or something like that. Like that's a great thing because that's like true gaming to me when you don't have like a time limit or anything. Typically when I have like a time limit, I'll just like either play my handheld for a little bit or like watch TV or something. But like when I have like a lot of time on my hands or whatever, I'm like, oh, this is when I gotta kick a stream over, no matter what. I did the podcast first because there was a lot of topics that I don't like bleeding over into game streams. Like I don't like being in a game stream and be like, okay, let's pause it so we can talk. I like being like, let's separate the two and stuff. So yeah, I mean, I'm gonna keep you updated and stuff, but frankly, myself personally, like I said, I'm leaning more towards the Xbox Series X. Now, to kind of put a bow on that a little bit, with the next generation hardware, am I saying that I'm never gonna get it? No, I'm not saying that. What I'm basically saying is, if you're gonna support it for 2 or 3 years, and the price is at bare minimum gonna be $1,000, here's the thing. What okay, I understand you're like, okay, you get access to your Steam games and you could get Steam and GOG and Battle.net and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, all right, cool, but I have that on my handheld already, and don't get me wrong, it's cool to play, but I'm not the type of person that's like, I really need that, as far as a graphic standpoint goes, to be honest, hold on one second. All right, I'm back. Just grabbed a quick little vape break. Um, so yeah, I'm pretty sure. Let's be honest. The next console gonna be a beast. It's gonna have like hella graphics. It's gonna be eye popping graphics, hella computer power and all that. But like in a way, I feel like the next jump that needs to accompany that is like, what are we at, 4K? I don't know what you go to from here, but like 5K or 8K or whatever the hell, it's time to make those the new affordable TV. Because I think that if you made 4 or 5K TV, let's say, I mean, and I'm not a K person, okay, meaning, like I said, I'm a tech channel, but I don't get into the specifics, right? If they made like, hypothetically, 6K, right? Say they made a 6K TV, and of course, when they first come out, they're going to cost a, buttload of money. But let's say they made a 6K TV and they made it like what I just saw. You can, and I joked around when I was on the phone with a family member when I was in Costco. I was like, they got 4K TVs in here for like $1,300, and I was like, I can hear it now. You could buy a TV for that money, Jim. On the news and stuff. So if they made like 4 or 5K TVs, I'm pretty sure they would be like $2,000 right off the bat. But then like after a year or so, you probably would see a lot of companies make them for like less than that. If they made something like that, then I think it would really push next generation, because you would have people like, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead, because you would have the bundles, you would have the like Best Buys and the Costco's and others, like, okay, if you buy your Xbox here, we'll give you a TV along with it. I think that's really what pushed the next generation when we jumped from 1080p to 4K, was the fact that, like, I remember podcasts where cats was like, I remember podcasts where cats was like, yeah, man, I just bought the new UHD 760 DZB TV, and no, man, what you really need to buy is the DZV DVB, like they was going back and forth about what TV you needed to buy to get the best graphics. Whereas now you can get a 4K TV if you're willing to go like 30 or 40 inch for like $400. You could probably get one of them Jones at like Walmart for like $100-$200 on Black Friday. Well, I shouldn't say $100-$200. You can get them Jones at like Walmart for like, like $300 around the time of Black Friday. Hell, probably now. I see a lot of times there's more TVs ever. There's more TVs than ever on shelves in stores than I've probably ever seen in my life. Especially, somewhere like a Best Buy that, I visit frequently to look and see what they have. They'll have like just some lined up. And you would think it's just like a Super Bowl thing. It's really not. Like, if you look close, there's like hella TVs in that damn store. And I think that if they were to make like a 5 or a 6-inch, a 5 or a 6K TV that you could potentially get for a couple $1,000s, I think that would really push next gen. And I think that's what actually pushed the generation when we switch from 1080p to 4K, whereas there's no upside to it right now. It's basically just, okay, you're advertising all these graphics to me, but it's like, do I have the hardware? But in a way, yeah, do I have the hardware to fully see these graphics? If not, like, yes, I have a 4K TV, right? I think, I don't know, I think it's like a Vizio. I'm looking at it now. I think it's like a Vizio or something like that. Great graphics. I've never looked at my TV and been like, okay, and it's a newer one. It's not even one of those like 50-year-old TVs or whatever. But 4K is subjective. Some people are like, hey, I gotta have the Samsung UHD ZBB, one and stuff, and it is what it is. I can respect that. But, a lot of people realize like there's only so high you can go in graphics, So for me, I look at it like, okay, let's say hypothetically I did go with let's say the one option of what do you call that there, of Xbox, right? Where you went with the financing option, right? Number one, you get a brand new console in the box. Number two, it comes with a 1-year limited warranty of any manufacturer malfunctions. So that means if it comes out the box broken, or if something breaks on their end other than me dropping it, they are basically obligated to give me a new one or repair it, right? And also you get it at a super, super low price. As far as the financing price, I'm not really sure how high they go. I know that, like I said, tomorrow there's going to be an increase in prices all around the world, basically for Xbox. But I'm pretty sure if they go up 100, the finance price will only go up like probably like 100, 150. and I think the finance price right now is at like 840, 850. So it'll probably go up to like 9. It's something different if the finance price went up to like 3,000. You know, like you're only basically paying $100 extra for the system, but what you get is the ability to only pay like $50. Now, let's say at the same time I didn't, for whatever reason, get approved or didn't want to deal with it, or let's say I changed my mind, I can easily pack up this system, and not even be screwing anybody over because my system is fully functional. Like, I swear for God, this is probably the cleanest I've ever had my damn system. Like, not like I'm extra carrying it, but I've really been very serious about, like where I put my system in my house and what I put around it and stuff. Like, I have super ventilation around it. It got its own corner in the room and stuff. The most I do with my system is like I'll unplug because I run through a graphics card and stuff. I'll unplug from the graphics card to put it in the system so that way I can like use my computer. Like, because I have a Windows computer. So I don't know if a lot of people know you can play your Xbox on your Windows computer. So sometimes I'll be like, you know what? I don't want to play on the TV. I want to put on like a show I like. It's like Ink Masters, right? I'm really into tattoos and stuff now. My wife being a tattoo artist, and with me having damn near probably what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, about 10 tattoos on just my left arm. Yeah, got a lot, bro. Even got one on my leg now. But yeah, at the same time, I love that show. It's a great show. I think it shows competition and stuff. Not getting on the TV or nothing, but I think it's a great show. It shows competition and the fact that anything can change. One missed line and they get kicked off the show. So let's say I want to, me and my wife want to watch a show like that. I can either, watch it downstairs, in the house or whatever, and take my Xbox Rogue Ally X, or I can set up my computer and have the same Xbox experience I have and stuff like that. So that's the only time I really change anything on my system. So, at most, and I've already talked to GameStop and been like, hey, and that's another conversation in and of itself. I'll get into it at a different time. The quality of these controllers really need to get better. I think that at this point, you cannot buy a controller without actually putting a warranty on it, because if you're a power user like myself, because I don't really go, I know there's like people that say like hardcore and casual. I think there's more like normal and power. And I think with normal users, their stuff lasts a little bit longer because they don't really put in that much time. Like they maybe put in like 2 or 3 hours every couple of days or whatever. Whereas like with me, I put in like 40 plus hours a month into these games. And, I'm running through these elites. I swear for God, I think that if I turn in this elite right now, even if I don't buy another elite, if I do, I don't know. I might. I'm not saying I won't, right? But if I buy another elite controller, I swear for God, this is probably like my damn near 4th elite. So I would make sure it comes with a warranty, right? But where I'm coming from is, let's say I did go with the, GameStop option and stuff like that. You're probably looking at bare minimum, the highest you would probably have to go is probably like 400, 450, and that's everything included, like the console, the controller, the warranty that comes with it, and everything. And when I say like how much you have to put out, that's because by the time you put, and that's depending on what they have available. If they have like, excuse me, because I looked up whether or not they're going to go up in price, because I asked people straight up. I was like, hey man, they supposed to be going up on these Xbox prices all tomorrow and everything. Are y'all guys going to go up 100 on y'all's too? And he was like, which is understandable. Retail, not to say I'm in retail right now or nothing, not saying that's where I am in life, because I'm chilling, but like working previous jobs in like Pennsylvania and stuff where I used to work and stuff, I'm able to have those conversations like, hey man, what's the deal? Y'all going to go up? And he's like, well, basically we don't get told nothing. Basically, corporate just tells us what it's hitting for. So from what I've read, they're not going to go up on their new systems. Yeah, but on like refurbished systems, which I know a lot of people stray away from sometimes. But typically when you put a warranty with anything, you're really covered and you're okay. In situations like that, you probably looking at only like 3, 4, maybe 3. You might be able to get away with like 375 if you don't I would put a warranty with it. But you're probably looking at maybe like 375, 4, something like that, right? So to have an option to only put down either 50 or only put down 3 or 4 is way better than saying, okay, I'm gonna chill and put down a G, for something that gives me a Steam library that is not deep for me and graphics that are good, but let's be honest, I have yet to hear the games of next year say we're waiting for, Xbox Helix, so at the same time, myself personally, I'm looking to, get a Xbox Series X, hopefully this week. I know a lot of people have been asking me like, so when are you going, yada, yada, yada. My goal is to try to get it before Madden. Now, will I actually have it before Madden? Sometimes I know with like shipping from like Microsoft, it can take like a day or so. I would get expedited shipping. I'm not sitting around here waiting for no 5 or 7 days. So I would just pay the expedited shipping. But I know with things like expedited shipping, you can get it in maybe a day or so. So that would put it at sometime this week coming, or at the same time, at bare minimum, probably by like a Friday maybe, of next week, a couple days after Madden. If I go the GameStop route, I would have it that day. So I'm looking at basically, trying to get an Xbox Series X this week and stuff like that. And the reason why I make that decision also is because whether it's from GameStop or whether it's from Microsoft, I plan on getting a year or 2 years warranty and being in a situation where I have options. Come next year, I'll make the decision on how I feel. I'm gonna let all the information come out. Like this is, I guess, with me, to be honest, getting ready to be 40 and stuff like that, I look at things differently now. There's a lot of things I enjoy more, not to say more than gaming, but I enjoy just as much as gaming. And those are things, being a married man, like doing stuff like shopping. I'm gonna be honest, that is one of me and my wife's favorite hobbies is shopping. Not shopping in the sense of like you out there, wheeling and dealing with rent money, but you little things like, okay, like a great day. A great day is like you get up in the morning, you have coffee at your local coffee shop, and no, not the sit down version. Don't get me wrong, but I don't do that actual, like, we don't do that actual, like, what do you call it there, where you, nothing against the sit down coffee shops. I think they're very cool too, but I don't do those actual, like, like let's sit in here and drink coffee missions. I'm talking about more like the, grab it and go, even if you get food, right? But you have some coffee in the morning. You maybe make your way to the local mall. I'm very big on things, little small trinket things like pins for my bags. Things like just looking in a GameStop for merchandise. Little crap. Like I was lucky enough, and I messed up. That's the one thing I can say I messed up with. With Assassin's Creed Shadows, I did not get as much merchandise as I could. Like I underestimated GameStop. I underestimated how much them guys had available to them in merchandise, and basically, I was able to get a what do you call it, mouse pad that says Assassin's Creed Shadows, and I have this limited edition cup and stuff. But I'm like, damn, I could have got more. I probably could have got like hella more, t-shirts and all. So I tend to stop past GameStops and check them out and stuff like that. There's really not too much else I would probably purchase like that. Depending on what my wife wanted to do. I kind of tend to play off of her. If she goes, because, she a sneakerhead and stuff. So if she was to go into, say, I don't know, let's say she went into Nike and was like, or, well, not Nike, what's the name of them stores? Some of them stores, like Foot Locker, right? Say she goes into Foot Locker and is like, I really like this pair of Jordans, right? And I'm like, okay, how much are they? And let's say the Jordans are like $197. I'm like, okay, well, you know what? Here's the thing. Buy your 197 Jordans, and I'm going to slide over after this. We're going to slide over to Best Buy so I can buy this memory card. This $150 memory card for my Xbox. Cool. That's the type of marriage we have where it's like, whatever I get, we try to, keep whatever I get or whatever she gets, we try to keep, buying each other stuff instead of it being like just one person buys something. And then, you chill, you enjoy the day. Maybe you go and get some buffet food or something like that, or take out food for the night or whatever, and you call it a day. You see what I'm saying? So in that situation, with a finance option, it leaves so much money there to do something like that where it's very appealing. Same thing even with a GameStop. Being in a situation like that where you can bring your hardware in and being a pro member, get 40% off of this, 30% off of that, 20% back on this, pro level prices and stuff. It saves you so much where it puts you into a position where I really feel like this gen still has so much life in it that I'm like, okay, I'm not 100% in anymore on next gen. Now, I'm not saying I'm out. I'm not 100% out, but I'm at a point where, in a way, you got to convince me now. Now does that mean I'm not going to invest in Xbox? Hell no. You hear me now saying I'm talking about getting another console and stuff. How many would that make? But does that mean that, okay, just because I get the next console, that come November I'm gonna be like blown away and I say, hey, I have to buy the next console? No, because for real, excuse me, if I have a 4K HDR, what is it, 120 frame per second, 1 terabyte Xbox Series X at that point this week, do I really feel like I need another one? In summer of next year? Maybe not. Now does that mean I would never get it? No, I'm not saying that. But also, even as a content creator, to be honest, hell, let's be honest, most of these damn things gonna be mailed out to y'all anyway. Let's be real. Like people like IGN and other outlets like that. Nothing against them. I'm just calling it the way it is. A lot of outlets like that, they're gonna be mailed the damn system 6 months before it even comes out. They're gonna have unboxings. I know there's that guy we all watch with the white gloves that don't talk, that does the unboxings and stuff. He'll probably get mailed one. IGN will have one. Probably like a Windows Central or something will have one, and they'll all do unboxings. So what am I rushing to? Once you see an unboxing, you've seen them all. Yeah, when I get my Xbox Series X, am I gonna do an unboxing? Hell yeah, but that's because of the fact that I want the content I want proof, number one, that I've invested into the system. And number two, I want the content for my website. I want the content for my social media profiles and TikTok posts. But it wouldn't be something that somebody hasn't seen before. And that's going to be the same way with the Xbox Helix. When it comes out, and IGN or the Glove Guy or Linus or something like that, when they unbox it, it's like everybody's seen it already. So it's like, what would I be rushing to? And then as far as the spec mission, that's a whole nother situation in and of itself where people are going to compare, okay, they're going to because I'm calling it the Xbox Helix because that's what the code name is, but they're going to put the Xbox Helix up next to the Xbox Series X and say, okay, things that we all want to know. How fast does it turn on? What's the difference in graphics? What plays Madden better? What plays Call of Duty better? What plays Fortnite better? These are all things that everybody's going to want to know that you really don't get answered until they get the console in their hand. So I did see an article at one point, to get ready to move on to the next topic. I did see an article at one point where people were talking about, it was like an outlet that was talking about the next Xbox will only sell like 3 or 4 million in its first year. And I think they said the next Xbox will only sell 3 million in its first year. And a lot of people, tore their head off and stuff. And myself personally, all I said was, you don't know how much it costs. You don't know what games are coming out specifically for it. And you don't know anything about it. So to make that guess is kind of wrong. But I do feel that where they're trying to come from is, like I said, with all the points I laid out, because of the fact of next generation, this generation being so supportive, and also with it being so high in a graphic capacity and affordable, that a lot of people may choose to stay put and say, okay, I'll get to next generation later. Instead of like back in the day when it was like, $300 or $400 for a console, and you're like, I can go to my local EB Games, which you got to be an OG to know what EB Games was. But I can go to my local EB Games or GameStop and trade in my system and get like, and just put $100 to $200 with it and get it. That's not like that anymore. Even if you do trade your system in, you're still probably looking at like a good, probably a bare minimum $500 clip. And that's if I paid off that Xbox Series X by November and took that joint in there. 9 times out of 10, you're probably only getting like $400-500. Now you might, if they have those days at GameStop, I noticed they had those days where it was like, what was the name of it there? Super Day or Super Trade-In Day or something, where you bring your console in and you get like super credit towards the next console. If they do something like that, yeah, they might raise the price to say 5 or 6, but there's no way in hell you're trading in an Xbox Series X towards a $1,200 or even $1,000 console and getting anywhere above $500 or $600. So you're still looking at another $300-400. So myself personally, like I said, I'm gonna look into this weekend Xbox Series X. I'll keep you guys updated. Of course, it'll be posted and stuff like that when it happens and everything like that. You are gonna have to give me probably that day to download everything, because Jesus Christ, like, my God, this stuff be taking a minute. Not like due to internet or nothing, but by the time you're talking about like probably damn near the whole memory, or at least like 800 gigabytes worth of data, it's gonna take a minute. Like you talking about, I'm gonna have to download Madden 20 at bare minimum. The games that I would definitely download would be like, and then I have to hook up all the systems, like Ubisoft Connect. I gotta sign in. I gotta hook up Ubisoft Connect. I gotta relink that system. Which I don't think I have to do, because I'm pretty sure there's something where like you once it's linked to your Microsoft account, you don't really have to link it, you just download it or whatever. But you got Ubisoft Connect, you got Madden 27, you got College Football 27, you got Fallout 4, you got Skyrim, you got Assassin's Creed Black Flag, Assassin's Creed Syndicate, Assassin's Creed Shadows, and then probably one or two other games I'm forgetting about. So you're probably talking about like maybe 850 gigabytes worth of data. Sometimes I can get that sort of stuff done in like a couple of hours, like a good 3-4 hours, but it depends on what my schedule looks like on whether or not I would go live that day. Maybe it'll just be like a post about, hey, this is the unboxing of it, and then maybe an article that I take while all that's being done. I write up, what made me, I'm thinking more what made me make that choice and why I made that choice. But, just to put that out there. The next topic, is Blade dead? And if so, why Xbox should hit up DC and Dark Horse? Here's my thing. I don't know if you've read it, but earlier, I want to say today or yesterday or something like that, the guy that was going to play Blade backed out of the movie. And he said that basically, they taking too long, and he started to kind of, voice his dislike of the fact that, they had so much going and yada yada. Kind of long story short, he don't want to be Blade anymore. And I think that somewhere along the line between the console game taking too long to come out, and I think also with it costing so much money, and also, I mean, they have to tell them the truth. And I'm pretty sure somebody like, because I'm one of those type of people where I never put words in executives' mouths, and I never try to disrespect them, because I look at them like real people too. I'm pretty sure if I had to think kind of how Asha was thinking here, she probably looked at it like, okay, calm on the phone with him. Hey, how's that Blade movie going? What you mean y'all done worked on 4 scripts? Like, what you mean the movie ain't coming out right away? What you mean the actor's upset? Hey, hey, you know what? You hang up the phone and go, hey, you know what? I don't think this game's a good idea. Because what you gotta understand is, with something like, in comparison to a Wolverine movie, from what I know, you have Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine one last time. Now, does that mean he would play Wolverine, he wouldn't do it again and say a Deadpool movie? No, he doesn't mean that. He means in like a standard Marvel MC Universe style movie, this is his last go round, right? So 9 times out of 10, when Doomsday comes out later this year, right? And I'm assuming he's in this movie, everybody that's a Wolverine fan is going to watch Hugh Jackman and say, I want the Wolverine game, right? That's kind of the connection there that happens with movies and TV. That's why I talk about arts and entertainment at the same time I'm talking about gaming, because nowadays they're really interconnected, right? When you look at this Blade thing, to me, it doesn't look like a good idea. Because number one, we all know, whether you want to accept it or not, Wesley Snipes was the best Blade of all time, hands down. There will never be another Blade. Okay? It just is what it is. I'm not saying that they can't find somebody to play the role. I'm not saying that they couldn't find somebody to maybe do it. But in all honesty and reality, he was the best Blade of all time, right? And I think somewhere along the line, this guy that's talking about the movie took too long, I think he kind of got that impression, where he realized, like, because they people too. They got social media accounts, they got family and friends that have media accounts, and I'm pretty sure they explained to him, like, hey, everybody online saying Blade's Wesley Snipes is the best. And agent might even tell him, like, hey, you think it's a good idea for you to, step into his shadow and be Blade, because regardless of what the movie is, the first thing somebody's gonna say is he wasn't as good as Wesley, or he Blade, whatever the hell the name of it was gonna be,
wasn't as good as Wesley Snipes. And now this game comes out and it bombs because of the fact that nobody gives it a chance because of the fact that the movie was trash. You see what I'm saying? So, first of all, to me, that's a huge loss of money, in my opinion. I think that this was a failed project. I'm not saying that it won't be good if it comes out. I have not played it. I have not, I've just seen what everybody's seen from it. But in my opinion, why I say they need to hit up DC and Dark Horse, I've been beating this dead horse drum for years. Okay? As a person that grew up in the comic book era, I'm talking about before games took over. Okay? Comic books ruled the world. Okay? And in a way they still do. Okay? There's a lot of people that read that don't even play video games. And you would be surprised how many things you absorb today came from books. Okay? And still come from books. But what I'm saying is, I feel like the stranglehold that Sony has with Marvel cannot be touched right now. You tried. You went out here. You attempted to make this Blade game. And it's hyper focused on Marvel. I don't understand it. You have characters like Superman, Batman, Robin, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern. I'm just naming it. And if you want to take Superman off the table, when a lot of people say, "Oh, you can't make a Superman game because of the fact that his powers are unlimited," that right there at the bat, I know you don't read comic books because that's nowhere near true. Okay, somebody like Lex Luthor stayed outsmarting that nigga. You know what I'm saying? Stayed outsmarting that cat. And at the same time, you can introduce things like Kryptonite to the game, where like, let's say, just as a hypothetical, right? Take Assassin's Creed games, and take well, not Assassin's Creed, but let's say open world. You can't fully customize them because it's Superman, so they have to stick to a certain character base, right? But you could have something where it's like an RPG standpoint, where you start off becoming Superman, learning your powers, earning your powers, and then maybe halfway through the game, you have all the powers that he has, but you have enemies that possess kryptonite, so they can weaken you, and you got to kill them. And let's say by the time it ends, you have a whole Metropolis world where basically, okay, you can go anywhere in the world, excuse me, you can go anywhere in Metropolis and basically save somebody or change the outcome of something. That's a whole game in and of itself. If you don't want to go down that route, you have things like The Flash, which has been superly done amazingly by the guy, I forget his name there, that played Barry. I know his name's Barry Allen, of course, but the guy that plays Spider-Man, The Flash and CW, he did that thing immensely great. Okay? I personally think myself that guy was even though the Flash movies were good, I think that guy that played Flash was the best Flash I have ever seen in my whole life. Okay? If you want to do anything, get that nigga from the phone. You know what I'm saying? Get him in for, what do they call that thing? Motion capture? What would he be doing? What real difference would he be doing between the TV show and the actual story? You know what I'm saying? And then also, you got the fast ability where you can work the graphics out. Graphics nowadays have to be able to make a man run up a building. You got people swinging on buildings. So you can get a Flash game going. You could get, I know a lot of people, the only reason why, don't get me wrong, I don't bring up the whole Wonder Woman thing is because of the fact that, from what I can tell, Wonder Woman is not really getting that push like that from DC. So the reason why I say the Flash part is because a lot of people would be like, okay, you watch the Flash TV show. Like, say somebody says, well, what Flash content is out there? Okay, you can go watch the Flash movie that came out, which was very good, that I'm not going to ruin for you. You can go watch the 20-something seasons that I'm still trying to catch up on of the Flash TV show that came out from CW. So you have a content that would push the game, okay? Green Lantern's a little bit different because there hasn't really been any real Green Lantern content. But as far as an open world graphics-based thing, that would be freaking amazing to have. You got Green Lantern, you got Flash, you got Superman, and then if you really wanted to get down with it, you could lock down Batman. You could just work a deal out where Batman is solely exclusive. Because the only reason why I bring up the exclusive part is because that's where the industry's going, really. You could work out a Batman game where, like, fully customizable, give him a mansion, let him customize the mansion. Look at all the stuff you can do. you know. And then let's not even kick the can around with Spawn. Like, if you don't know about Spawn, you really didn't grow up in the content world. Let me tell you something. Spawn had a scene one time in the comic books where he was such a badass that he was ruling the streets. And then a gang gripped him up, beat him up, and beheaded him. You hear what I'm saying? Beheaded him. He didn't even die. He just was chained up to a gate, beheaded, and had to wait till his head regenerated. Stuff like that? Come on, man. Like, you telling me you can't get Todd McFarlane on the phone? You paying all this money for a Blade game? Blade? It's something different if you had like Wesley Snipes motion caption in this joint voice acting or something. You don't even have a guy from the movie. You got some random dude, in a barber shop getting a haircut. What the like don't get me wrong. When's the last time you heard of Blade getting a haircut? And then at the same time, you got Blade paying with some of the things two things that happened in that game trailer, three things really that happened in that game trailer that I wanted to play. I want to play the game if it comes out. I'm not saying it's bad, but three things that threw me off with that trailer that came out was, number one, he was in a barbershop getting a haircut. When the hell has Blade ever prioritized his damn hair over fighting enemies? Really, think about it. All the Blade movies and comics you done probably watched, read, and absorbed, when the hell did he ever care about how his hair looked? Yeah, he had fresh haircut, but that's just the way it was. He got his hair cut, but it was never like a main thing. He spent more time in the damn barbershop than he did. He didn't even fight one enemy, bro. Like, he spent more time getting his hair cut than anything. Then at the same time, he's paying what looks like Euro money. What the hell are we doing? Blade's not in America? He's not in New York? Come on, bro. Like, he's not even in New York. Then on top of that, he goes outside and climbs on top of a building, and from what I can tell, this looked like some damn, what's the name of that movie? Borderlands style, movie, excuse me. What's the name of that game? Borderlands style graphics? What are we doing? Who authorized this? Who gave the green light to this crap, bro? So, I'm not saying it's gonna be a bad game or nothing. I just feel like myself, if any Xbox executive was to ever listen to this show, like, y'all need to have a phone call with DC, man. Y'all need to have a phone call with DC. Todd McFarlane with Spawn is different because I feel like, in a way, the whole Todd McFarlane with Spawn thing would give you just one game. Whereas I feel like there's some sort of, hold on a second, I don't know what went on with this person's stream. Todd McFarlane, in a way, I feel like, Todd McFarlane with what's the name of that thing there? Todd McFarlane with Spawn. You obviously don't want to create excuse me. You obviously don't want to create games where you have to wait, 800 years for the game to come out. So if you don't want to do that, you could easily sign an exclusive, like, because let's be real, Sony, and I have nothing against them when I say this, right? Sony has some sort of exclusive deal with Marvel. Y'all can think what you want, okay? Anytime Spider-Man 1 comes out, exclusive. Spider-Man 2 comes out, exclusive. Spider-Man Spider-Man 1 comes out, exclusive. Spider-Man Miles Morales comes out, exclusive. Spider-Man 2, exclusive. Wolverine, exclusive. Venom coming out, exclusive. Bro, what are we doing? You know what I'm saying? I don't think in a way Marvel wants to acknowledge the fact that they did a deal like that, because I think once they acknowledge the fact that they did some sort of exclusivity deal with Sony, then it would really push people like Microsoft and others to say, you know what, we don't even want to deal with you guys anymore because that's what you did. But I don't see how nobody's waking up to understand that's what went on here. And then it's like you have this whole library of characters, Superman, Supergirl, even if you didn't want to do the movie, Superboy, Steel, Green Lantern, Wonder Woman, Batman. Damn, how far you gotta go down the list before you say you want to pick one? And then even if you didn't want to pick one, you could give them, think about it, don't get me wrong, y'all throwing $100 million at crack. You could give them probably like what? I don't know the exact numbers, right? But if you got $100+ million to build some of these games that barely make it, right? Bro, give them $200 million and go get you 3-4 characters. Put 3-4 games in. If you right now was to say an announcement, if you was able to go live at an announcement trailer next to whoever the hell is running DC right now, right, and say, we are in the works of making a Superman game, a Batman game, a Flash game, and a damn Wonder Woman game, bro, you would shut it down right now. And you ain't, even if I know everybody says, well, it shouldn't be exclusive. Hey, look, that's the name of the game. If you could say we got DC and an exclusive, now you pushing consoles. You want to know what pushes consoles? Stuff like that. Failed Blade games do not push consoles, bro. I'm sorry, it don't. You see what I'm saying? Nobody's like checking for that game like that. Everybody I hear talking about is like, yeah, Wolverine, and I can respect it. You know, that's an iconic character. Blade's an iconic character, but Blade is attached to Wesley Snipes. He is not attached to this new version, and it's already dead. You know, in a way, when you got the actor talking about, yeah, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna be in the movie, and they took too long, and he already talking about taking his talents that he learned to be Blade and put it in another movie. And I'm like, oh my God, like what are we doing? So now how much, think about it, how much money was lost? How many people got paid salaries? Now we got to hear about when the salaries get cut, when you fire these people, when they get laid off. Now it's a whole see this cycle y'all keep getting involved with. See, I know a lot of people expect, because it's green low screen and because I'm an Xbox centric podcast and stuff, that I agree with everything they do. That is not true. Okay, I will voice my opinion about things I don't like, just like anybody else. The only difference is I try to do it in a positive way and explain a way out. And a way out is DC, or a way out is Dark Horse. You know, these are characters that mean a lot. I understand where you're coming from with, say, somewhere like Spawn, where you feel like, hey, you know, if you made his game, you only make it one game. Okay, cool. Go buy the damn Justice League. How much could it cost? I mean, let's be real. I'm not saying buy the company, because I know a lot of people in the higher ups probably don't want nothing to do with something like that. You know, and I'm pretty sure there would be some sort of, you know, government system that would be mad if Xbox bought DC. But I'm pretty sure there's some sort of exclusive merger deal that you can make there and say, hey, look, we making a Superman game, we making a Batman game, we making a Green Lantern game, we making a Flash game, we making a Wonder Woman game, and we making a Green Lantern game, all in the next 5 to 7 years. Period. They're gonna start rolling out one after another. Period. You would set the world on fire. Okay, set the world on fire, right? But will they do that? Look, like I said, that's something that as a comic book fan, I would love to see. But, you know, until somebody opens their eyes up and realize that you're going to keep playing this Marvel game and losing, I don't know what's going to happen. You know, I don't know why it got to be Marvel. Like they already said, even the new Doctor Doom Marvel stuff that's coming out, they don't plan on this being like, you know, the what's the name of that thing? They don't plan on it being like the first run where it was like 800 Marvel movies. This is a movie that is to set up to rejuvenate the new movies. Like, yes, Black Panther's gonna be a great movie. X-Men's gonna be a great saga. Who else they making there? X-Men, Black Panther. These are gonna be great sagas, but obviously you ain't getting none of them. You know what I'm saying? Now don't get me wrong. If I should have made a Howie Roseman, you know, we didn't see it coming style move where basically and let me follow this content creator too, because they doing good work over here. They doing good work. If Asha Sharma had made you know, a Howie Roseman under the table style deal where basically, you know, she done got a Black Panther deal or something signed, or maybe she done got a who else is out there that or can't do X-Men because it involves Wolverine. You can't have an X-Men, or maybe Cyclops or something. That's something different, but I doubt it, you know, because if that was the case, they would have been announced something like that. There's no way that they would have just, you know, not announced something like that. So one day I hope they open their eyes to the other side of content creation as far as comic book goes. But you know, you could tell it's not a lot of people that have a good input on that, because I don't know who said let's just go 100% in on Blade. You know, and now you think about it. You got at least probably like $100+ million to make a game that may not see the light of day, right? You got probably like $30 to $50 million over all these years in salaries, right? And then you got a failed project that is going to just take over the news and announcement because they're going to be, oh, yes, another Xbox game, Jim, did not make it to the world today. They shut down Blade.
right? Then they're gonna be like, "Oh, the people got fired, Jim. They can't pay their wages, Jim. They got fired. Xbox did it again." Now you got bad press coming for you from a game that shouldn't have even been greenlit, right? You should have been able to look at that game, look at this movie, and say this ain't gonna match up. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, that's just me. You know, as a comic book fan, I would like to see them make that call, and hopefully one day they do. Yes, you're gonna see me keep saying it online. I don't care how many times. To be honest, I do not care how many times you see me say it on on Twitter or in comment section. I'm gonna keep saying it until somebody address it. You know, if and I don't mean it in a disrespectful way. I don't mean it like they're doing something stupid or they're doing something dumb. I just feel like what they're doing is they're getting scraps. You know, you have Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man Morales, Spider-Man 2, Venom coming out, Wolverine. All these games just keep going to Sony, but you guys like, yeah, but we got Blade. Like, what the hell? That shouldn't even be a consideration. I would be like, all right, y'all can keep all that, right? We're gonna go to y'all competition. We're gonna make this straight up. Yes, is it gonna rejuvenate the conversation there of basically Marvel versus DC? Yeah, but so what? Who cares? You already doing that as a console. You already going back and forth with these guys. Why not make a comic book? You know, why not put people in a situation where it's like, yeah, you're gonna have people to go, Marvel has the better characters, which is not true. Don't get me wrong. Probably I love Hulk. He's one of my favorite characters, but let's be real. Batman has one of the most deepest worlds in all of existence. Okay, you talking about Batman, bringing in people like the Joker. You could span those games so far where you have the Joker, Penguin, you have a romantic option in Catwoman, you have a romance option in Black Cat. Oh no, Black Cat was Spider-Man. You have a romance option in Catwoman. You have an RPG element in his house. You have a deep story of just despair and stuff like that. You have Superman with a Metropolis. You have Wonder Woman for people that want to play as a woman character. You have Flash and the character of somebody that's maybe a part of the Justice League, but not actually, you know, on Superman's level. So sitting up here and just, you know, waiting for Marvel to throw you a character to me is not smart. I don't agree to it. I don't think it was a good idea, and I think they need to move away. You know, so just lodging my complaint there about it. But like I said, is Blade dead? Looks like it. At least the movie is. The next one. Why Fable will be epic. In my opinion, I have spoke on Fable before. Um, my thing is like this. The reason why I really do feel as though that Fable is going to be an epic title is because of the fact of what it brings to gaming. I'm a real big fan of open world. I think that an on-rail story is very good, but I think an on-rail story lasts for a couple of hours. I think the reason why games like Starfield have, you know, mega fans like me that put in 200 hours and plus and equaling up to over 1 billion hours of gameplay, and I don't mean that in an exaggerated way. Like they literally just announced that there's 1 billion hours worth of gameplay that was put into Starfield. And I think that that's because of the fact when you have a open world um game that you can create in, it brings you back more than uh an on-rail story. Myself personally, at first, I did not play and I'm willing to admit it, you know, I did not play Fable when it came out, you know, 30, 40 years ago or 25 years ago. I didn't play it, you know, not because I thought it was trash, but just mainly because of the fact that, to be honest, I was more into like protecting the row and Saints Row. I was more running with the, you know, crime families and the Godfather. I was more getting revenge and Scarface. I was more throwing the ball and football, you know, running basketball games. It was just more going on. Halo at the time, Gears. It's just one of those titles that slipped past me. When I saw Fable, I immediately wanted. I always watch the gameplay that comes out for a game because I think it actually tells you the story of the game. In my opinion, in a game where you can buy any business, okay, you can get married or not even get married. But speaking what I would want to do, I would want to establish a life in the game that has a family, but still be a hero at the same time. And you rarely see that in games. Okay. It's something different having like a romantic option or whatever. But it's something different when you can have like a house with some kids and a wife or maybe you don't even have kids, you know, who knows, right? But you have a wife, you have a family, you have this whole open world where you can make money and you can get legacy, you can get glory and go on quests. You can buy multiple businesses to generate money in the game. A lot of times, the only mechanic you have in games to make money is basically being able to like collect loot, you know, and sell it. Being able to have a running business that makes you money at all times. These are things that I think typically, you know, Ubisoft, Bethesda, you know, cats like that do. You know, this is the type of thing that I feel like, in a way, and it's gonna sound wild when I say it, and you know, it's a later topic, right? Games like this made me double think my purchase of Grand Theft Auto. I'm being honest with you. I'm being completely honest with you. Okay. When I compare, and it'd be something different if like, and it's a great comparison because it'd be different if I was comparing Grand Theft Auto as like a PlayStation game to Fable as an Xbox game. They're both, from what I know, coming to all platforms, right? But in my eyes, the replayability of Fable gives you way more than what I would get from Grand Theft Auto. Like by the time I go to press purchase, like say I'm right on the cusp of giving Grand Theft Auto $100, right? I could take that $100, give it to Fable. No, I have this game. Forget all that Game Pass. You know, oh, when it comes to nah. I'm talking about as fast as possible, my nigga. You know what I'm saying? Get me this game. You know, like how they said in Saints Row when you had to save your friend. I need a hero. I need a hero that's on the edge of the night type thing, right? This is the type of thing where basically you get to fully create your character from the rip. Okay, this is not some okay. I have to have a special edition to do it. I get to fully customize my character from the rip, even if I don't want to get into marriage right at the bat. Let's say I just want to, you know, be who I am, right? So what? Changes nothing. That aspect is always there, right? There, from what I can tell, there's like 4 or 5 mega cities in this thing. The map is super huge. We all know, whether you want to realize it or not, Fable will be getting more series, okay? Because there's no way they're going to make a Fable, what? They made like 3 Fable games on the original, I think the original Xbox or Xbox 360, right? So there's no way in hell they're going to make just one Fable. 9 times out of 10, Fable 2 will not be available on other consoles. Okay, that's another thing that I, you know, and it's not like I'm trying to, you know, say anything bad about other consoles, but we are moving as a gaming industry back to exclusives. Back in the day, that's how it was. If you wanted Mario, you had to buy a Nintendo. If you wanted what was mainly PlayStation, if you wanted Uncharted back then, you had to buy PlayStation. If you wanted Halo, you had to buy Xbox. And I think that with some of these titles that's coming out, they can't change that. But going forward, it will be, you know, what you call it? Going forward, it will be. You know, going forward, it will be. It's kind of like if you love this version, the next version is going to be even bigger and badder, but you're going to have to buy an Xbox for it. You know, will it take 8 to 10 years? I doubt it. I think that's another reason why they're trying to like spin stuff up quicker. So that way, if things are a success, they can play off of it and say, hey, you have to buy the next one. But sticking to solely with Fable, you know, I can create a character, you know, learn the story, learn kind of what's going on a little bit, have a little fun, and then say, you know what, I really like don't get me wrong, I really like let's say you ride into town 1 and you're like, oh, it looks really nice here, but I really like town 2, even though I haven't explored town 3 or 4, but I really like town 1 and 2. I want to build a house here, or I want to buy a house here. I want to get married, have some kids, but I'm still gonna go off and do my own thing, right? That is all possible in that game. Okay, to me, I would say at bare minimum, Fable looks like at least 100-hour game. Okay, and I'm saying from like a you had to go play something else style thing. I know for a fact with a game, if I put in 200 hours into Starfield, I know I probably put at least 100 hours in the Fable, if not more. Okay, now what would push it past 100 plus hours will be things like, we haven't even discussed things like DLC. And matter of fact, I'll look that up for you too. I'll look that up right now. Will the new Fable game be coming with DLC eventually, or have they ruled that out? My hand of God, I'll look it up right now. That way, I ain't no, oh, you know, I was trying to give you the current information. right? It says right here, post-launch DLC has not been ruled out for the new Fable game. In fact, a story-driven expansion named Order of the Hero already has been officially confirmed by Playground Games. Confirmed DLC Order of the Hero is pitched as a story-focused expansion that introduces a new region to Albion. The expansion centers around a secret dark ancient cult hidden in a world where players' actions help them rise as a celebrity overseer. The DLC is included as part of the game's higher tier premium edition bundle rather than being cut from previous plans. So right there's already DLC that comes along with the game. So you haven't even beat the main story, right? It's Starfield all over again. You know, you haven't beat, and if you haven't played Starfield, definitely check that out. But it's like you haven't even beat the main game yet, and they're Fallout in you. You know, Starfield, Fallout, Skyrim. These are games that like you don't even finish the full story, and there's like hundreds of hours of content around it, and there's tons more content waiting for it. So it's not that I have anything against, you know, and I can go ahead and let me see, do I even have that in here? Yeah, something like that. When I'm like, okay, was it smart when people say everybody's moving out of the way of Grand Theft Auto? That's true. A lot of people did move their games out of the way, but I also think a lot of people did that smartly. I think they realized that most gamers are going to look at something like that and size it up really quick. Because, in my opinion, the most popular part about Grand Theft Auto is going to be Grand Theft Auto Online. It's not going to be the story. Because let's be real, let's be real. Let's say Grand Theft Auto, the game, sells 30 million copies. Okay? Cool. Speaking as a content creator, that does not help me. Hold on a second. Anyway, speaking as a content creator, that does not help me because number one, shout out to people like, you know, the Burnt Peanut and other content creators. They're going to 24-hour those games as soon as it comes out, you know, and there's other speedrunners that are going to spend the first 2 days of when that console game comes out playing it. Now, I'm not going to watch it if I have the game, not because just I'm a content creator, but I also don't want the story ruined for me, right? And also that puts you guys in a world where you have to choose not only who you watch play it, but when you watch it. Because am I going to, you know, even if I was to get something like Grand Theft Auto, am I going to shut down every game I'm playing to play it? No. Like you're talking about DLC from Starfield, Terra and Armada. You're talking about me continuing the story in Fallout. You're talking about me playing Fallout 4. You're talking about me playing Assassin's Creed Shadows. You're talking about me playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Shadows, Syndicate, Valhalla. Okay, you're talking about not. You're talking about also Madden 27 being out. You're talking about NBA 2K7 story being out. There's no chance in hell I'm shutting all that down just to play a Grand Theft Auto story to beat somebody to it. It's not gonna happen. And then also I can't watch anybody play it because it's basically gonna kill the story for me. So just because I'm a content creator, I also think about you guys and girls and people, right? I think about how it kind of like affects you. You know, how like you're like, I'm like, damn, if I'm not gonna watch it, they're not gonna watch it. So, and then also the lockdown version of it where, don't get me wrong, I grew up watching crime boss movies. I understand what crime boss movies are based around. This is Bonnie and Clyde. So at the end of the day, they're going to commit a lot of crimes. You know, they're okay. They got all these mechanics and all sorts of stuff, but basically it is based around these two people, and either they're going to be dead or they're going to be rich, one way or another. And then when it's over, what draws me back to the game? You see what I'm saying? Like what brings me back after I have completed the main story? You're not giving us online right now. You, if I had to guess, you're probably not giving us online. I mean, would they launch online by Christmas? Uh, I'm not gonna say no, because at the same time, it depends. I think they know that as soon as they announce the new GTA Online world, that money in GTA 5 Online is gonna stop being spent, right? So they probably want to stretch that out as long as they can. And also at the same time, I know a lot of people may not think like this, but they have not even said that they're going to do another online. They have said that Grand Theft Auto is going to be a standalone story-driven game. Now, will they do it online? Maybe, but it ain't going to be right now, right? And then also you got to think that they might want to do a PC version before they actually do an online version. So my thing is, and then if you really think they're going to charge you, what did they charge you nowadays? Like 100 something for the story-driven game, you really think you getting online for free? Bro, you out your mind. That online version gonna be at least $50-$60, hands down. Okay, now is it gonna be good? Probably. Probably end up being good, but you gotta think by the time we get to let's say Grand Theft Auto Online doesn't come out by the time Fable comes out. Okay, number one, they done buried themselves in my world because you talking about once again, you talking about me progressing further in Starfield, loving hella Assassin's Creed games. Okay, probably hella deep in franchise and Madden, hella deep in the franchise of 2K. Okay, on top of that, what's another one there? Not even just making up games, but like hell, just those games alone. By the time you got Syndicate, Origins, Odyssey, and Shadows and Black Flag all having new content pumped into it from the Ubisoft Plus app, that's 5 Assassin's Creed games. Then you throw in Madden, 2K, college football, Fable, and possibly I know there's one I'm missing. One other one that I'm missing. Let's call it Shadow Game, right? You took 10 games, bruh. Fallout 4. There you go. Excuse me. Fallout 4 and Skyrim, right? You talking 10 games? 10 games, and I'm about to spend my whole life and checking into this daggone thing every day, getting blown up and don't get me wrong. Yes, I know that they may have a private room option and stuff, but typically most missions in the game require you to play with other people. So that's going to require me to go back to the normal world and have to play with other people. So I think that in a way, don't get me wrong, I respect the fact that it's a good game from what I can tell. But like I said, in my opinion, I think something like I think something like Fable has a way better playability to it. At least it's like, okay, my character's fully cut. Like, listen to everything I just said. If you haven't watched the gameplay, watch the gameplay and be the judge yourself. You see what I'm saying? By the time this person rolled into town on a horse, okay, number one, which I like better than cars anyway. I mean, I don't ride horses. I would myself personally probably never get in to ride horses. But having that, that's what I'm saying. Doing things you can't do. You see what I'm saying? Like riding a horse into town, buying a business, getting, even if you don't get married. Let's say you're not the type of person that likes to get married. Okay, whatever. Like they said, you can romance somebody in every city. Okay, if you're the type of player person that want to have 5 or 6 girlfriends or boyfriends, go right ahead. You see what I'm saying? You can have a different person. You can have a different romantic option in every damn city. A different business in every damn city. You could be, you could have a family in every damn city and still be out there slaying and slanging and banging and killing with swords or magic or whatever, doing what the hell you want to do. That's just one game. Okay, that's just one game. Okay, so to me, don't get me wrong, Fable, I feel as though it's going to be epic. I'm not saying at the same time that, Grand Theft Auto is not going to be good, but I think with them being so close to each other, because the next game I'm about to mention doesn't have a release date, but like with this, they have a release date of like, I think like February or March or something like that. And I'm like, damn, like I have yet to, myself personally, and I'm not saying this to get no award or nothing, but I have not pre-ordered Grand Theft Auto yet. Literally. I hadn't, I wasn't impressed. I was like, hey, this is very good, but, at the same time, like, what else do I get? I've lived this life already of, I've lived this sort of life in Cyberpunk and if I had to be more in the streets gritty, like, I've lived this life before in Cyberpunk. Hell, I still haven't finished. Prime example, another game, Saints Row. Not the first and second one, but the original one, the last one that came out. I haven't fully finished that. Because I moved on to other games. So that's a whole aspect of a franchise that I love way more than Grand Theft Auto. Like, if you ask anybody, they'll know I love Saints Row way more than I love Grand Theft Auto. So it'd be something different if I was coming at it like, and don't get me wrong, I understand everybody's financial situation and may not be able to do something. But for me, when I get close to saying, okay, I'm going to put 100 down on something, I look and say, okay, who else is in the field that competes for that money? And I feel like Fable competes for that money, and I would love to know that, okay, I get this game early, I get it ahead of time, I can look forward to creating my own character, seeing what businesses I can buy. If I'm not mistaken, they said there's like 1,100 NPCs with customizable what do you call that there? Customizable words and things. One dude, he walked up to one dude and asked him to come along with him. I'm like, who in the hell does that? Like, what game do you know where you can just roll up on a random dude when you get big enough and be like, hey, roll with me on this mission. You know what I'm saying? Come on with me. Watch my back. Right? Like, come on now. So at the same time, like I said, right now, I feel like Fable gonna be epic. And I feel like Fable got my purchase already. The next one, State of Decay 3 looks incredible. And I don't think Xbox should have moved away from it. Here's the thing about it, and I'm gonna pick the pace up a little bit because I'm gonna get y'all up out of here in a little bit. Might skip over a couple things, frankly. I know I can skip over the Grand Theft Auto conversation because I basically talked about it. State of Decay 3, to me, was a bad move by Xbox for letting them go. I think that State of Decay 3 looks like an incredible game. My concern about the game was the fact that the zombies were a little too much. You see what I'm saying? Like the Juggernaut was damn near the Incredible Hulk, and the Ferals was like, I mean, it's hard to compare them to something, but they were like magic level. In a way, they were like magic level, damn near zombies or whatever. And then the Screamers were like, calling up 20 and 30 zombies and stuff. It was just a little too much zombies, and a little too much stuff. But I did, when I was watching one of the gameplays, I looked it up and asked, whether or not there'll be sliders or adjustments that you can make in the game. And they did say, excuse me, they did say they plan on putting sliders in the game where you can adjust like how easy it is to find loot, or how hard the zombies fight, or how often or where they are and stuff like that. They did say that the system in there of them, surrounding your base and stuff will still be there. But I think once you're at a situation where, in a way, like let's say you're at a point where in all honesty, let's say you're at a point where you can turn the sliders down to where, okay, let's say that, you have zombies on the map, but maybe you're able to find loot very easy, or let's say, not saying they'll put something in there to just be able to kill the Juggernauts easy, but let's say they have a slider in there for, say, the frequency of zombies, or how many Juggernauts you see, or how many Ferals you run into, or something like that. I think that'll make the game more enjoyable. Just having that aspect in there makes me more excited for the game. If it was the type of thing where, like, basically, okay, you couldn't turn any of that down and you had to just play the game as is, I don't think it would be that successful, because I think it would be just too much for the average gamer. I mean, I think it would be fun, but I think it would be, too much of a headache for somebody that just wants to casually, jump in and play the game. So I think that's going to be an epic game. In my opinion, I think that was a little bit of a bad move for Xbox to get rid of them. I think they started with them. I think they had a great thing going. And I think somewhere along the route, whether it be that the game's taking too long, or whether it be that it's costing a lot of money. I mean, let's be honest. There's so many games that they've greenlit that shouldn't have been greenlit. That was one that I think should have stayed. Myself personally, I said that when the whole studio conversation was going on. That I'm not worried about that. I'm just worried about State of Decay 3. Thank the Lord that State of Decay 3 lives. It will be coming out in 2027, and it will be on Xbox. And I'm pretty sure going forward, State of Decay, all of State of Decays will be available, under a multi-platform standpoint. So I don't really have to worry about missing those titles. But I do not agree with the fact that they moved them out as a studio. I do think they should have been kept under an umbrella. That move I don't agree with. I think that's a great franchise, and I don't really understand that move. But hey, you're not gonna understand every move that they do. I'm just glad that we get the game. I'm looking forward to it. That's yet another reason about something that I'll be playing next year. That's gonna take a lot of my time, because I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm not playing that game on a hardcore level. So don't come into this expecting me to be like, let's play it on like the equivalent of like all Madden. Like, nah, I'm cool. All Heisman, I'm cool. Because a lot of times what people gotta understand about it is typically that's not even entertaining for an audience to watch you struggle 800 million times. Typically people want to see, as gamers, we want to see the new stuff in the game. Like right now, I'm watching while I'm talking to you, I have it in the background. I have a Skyrim stream on. I don't know the person's name, but she or he has like damn near like 3 or 4 companions and magic in both hands, just annihilating people. She's annihilating people so much that she's been turning people into dust, digging through the ashes, you know. And I'm like, okay, and not even like reading anything, like just speed running through this thing. This is the type of thing that makes me want to play Skyrim, you know, because of the fact that I'm like, I want to get to that level, you know. I want to get to a point where it's like not hard to beat people up. Right now it's hard because you just started the game, but that's what I'm talking about. Like sometimes when you crank the setting up, I understand some people like playing like that, but sometimes when you crank the level up to the highest it can go, you get, you know, you get maxed out. You don't really have that much fun. To me, with something like State of Decay 3, I would rather, not to say turn it down easy. I don't want the combat to be easy, but I want the zombie interaction to be lower than what it was set at. Because in my opinion, from what I'm seeing, that's just ridiculous. You know, to have a juggernaut that's like the Incredible Hulk, and to have, you know, pharaohs and 20 something zombies running at you, and something about when you shoot them in the head, they don't die. I'm like, that's basic zombie stuff. You know, like I'm not saying with the juggernaut you could one shot them, but if they have that option in there and things like that, I will be turning it on all day, all day. Let's see here with the next one. Why I can't wait for the next Dragon Ball game. Okay, if you didn't see online, I just recently got started. Well, I didn't start it, but you know, my wife started a tattoo there of Shinron. I have Shinron on my calf. Dragon Ball Z. I say Dragon Ball Z. I know there's different titles and stuff like that, but Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, whatever you want to call it, there is my favorite anime of all time. And I'm super excited for the next game. I played over 100 hours in the first Dragon Ball Z Xenoverse, pre-ordered it, beat it, put 100 hours into it. Got Dragon Ball Z Xenoverse 2, day one, got this, I think it was the Platinum Super Saiyan armor there, put in 100 hours, beat the game. Even went back for a second playthrough, didn't really finish the second playthrough, but beat the first one playthrough in the second game there. Really looking forward to the next game. I would love to have my man Vegeta, Piccolo, and others in it. If they're not really playing a big part in the game, I can understand that. It's cool with me. It seems more like a RPG standpoint than less of just, you know, hey, you fly around. Because there was a kind of repetitive cycle there with Xenoverse, which was okay with me, but there was kind of a repetitive cycle there with Xenoverse where you would, you know, load into the game and take a mission from the Time Patrol, play it, and then, you know, just fly around buying clothes. Whereas I think in this one, it feels more like an RPG standpoint where, you know, you create your own story, you create your own character, and you kind of live your own life and stuff like that. And I think it's like 1,000 years in the future or something like that. So that's a day one for me. They did say it's coming out in 2027. It doesn't have a release date just yet, but that is definitely a day one for me. No question about it. Biggest edition I can get, season pass, all that bull crap. I will have that game. I love Dragon Ball Z, and I'm definitely looking forward to that game. The next one, why COD has me excited. I mean, I'm gonna put it to you like this: I am not the best COD player as far as KDP goes, you know, or K whatever I think it's called, what KDP or K whatever it's called, the kill death ratio, right? I am not the best at that, but the story has me very intrigued. As a person that watched Red Dawn back in the early 80s, 90s and loved it. Watched the new Red Dawn that had came out after that in the late 2000s, 20s. Very good series. I think the story looks incredible. I think it's returning back to what God of War is. And I think that after I play that story, I think I would love to, you know, jump in day to day to a match. You know, every now and again, you know, you get a match or two in a Call of Duty and you upgrade your weaponry and stuff. I think once you buy, you know, the big edition, because that's what I would do, because it's from what I can tell, it's not available on Game Pass. I would buy the big edition, and I would basically, you know, put in time into the game and stuff like that, and, you know, run a match every now and again and stuff. So COD has me super excited. That's a game that I also want to get this year, you know, Lord willing, day one. Jumping down here. And this is a non-Xbox title question. Some things I'm going to be skipping for time so I can kind of wrap this up here. But Sony doubles down on not having disc going forward, how that affects me as a gamer. This kind of tags back into what we talked about with cross generation and next generation. I am not going to punch down on Sony for not having discs anymore because I solely believe that there's a possibility that Xbox can say the same thing going into the next Xbox. So I think a lot of people that have been punching down at the Sony community are being clipped, are being screenshotted, and when they do announce that possibly for Xbox, all of that's going to come back to haunt you. I'm not doing it not just because of that, but also because of the fact that myself personally, all the games I just named are not disc versions. They're all digital versions. So frankly, at the same time, if Xbox does that, it's not really going to hurt me. I understand where people are coming from with this with Sony. I'd say, speak your mind. But when they put out stats that say I think it was like $1.28 billion of their money in profit was digital and 128 million was physical. I mean, that's not even 50% of you guys that are on PlayStation are buying physical games. So to sit up here and say that, well, we're not going to play for weeks, don't get me wrong, unless somebody like did something like damn near racist or like, un-American or something, I can't see myself saying I'm not playing your game for a while just because you don't have a disc. But we'll see. People are talking about they're going to boycott for a couple weeks. You got people in their community saying they're lying, that when Grand Theft Auto comes out, they're gonna play. And would I shut off my hobby because of that? No. I might not invest in as many games. As you can tell, a lot of games I've named already are not solely Xbox games. I don't buy a game just because it comes out from Xbox. But at the same time, I mean, I can understand people's, upsetness. I think they should speak with their wallet. I'm not going to sit up here and tell you that you need to automatically come to Xbox, but I think you should consider whether or not you should be on that platform. Because if you're gonna own a, what is it, $700-800 console and then say I'm not gonna play a week, some people are even saying further than that, I'm not gonna play at all because of that decision, then are you really on the right platform? Something you might want to think about. But they did do a if I'm not mistaken, they did do a financial report or some sort of thing like that, where they said that they are not backing off of that. They are not changing their mind. They are not going to reverse it. That's the course they're going. And they feel like they have enough of a community input. They've heard the community output, but they feel like they have big enough, community where it won't hurt them. So I'm going to leave the rest up to Sony content creators. But hey, do I think Xbox can go that route? Yep. And this whole disc to digital thing, I think they cannot do that too. I think that Xbox, that's why they maybe have not said anything, because that disc to digital thing may not even be real. That may just be something that's being passed around the internet. They may say that the next Xbox is all digital, and now everybody makes the news. Now everybody, then they go, I can hear it now. Well, Nintendo still does cartridges. And then that'll be a whole thing. So we just gotta wait to see how that shakes out. The next one, Xbox reaches a billion users nearly. Xbox reaches nearly a billion users a year across console, PC, cloud, and other Xbox services. Why that is important going forward. Something like that is important because basically when they go to make a decision, they're making a billion user decision. And that's why I say what I said about certain games, why I said that, they need to expand the portfolio when it comes to the comic book content to other people, because there's pounds of people that read more than just what they watch in movies. Not everybody's comic book choice or even anime choice is solely, what is in the theaters. So I think that the decisions they've been making have been smart. I'm eager to see where they're going with this, like what is this next move that you're going to make as far as studios go. But yeah, I think it's an accomplishment for them to be reaching a billion people yearly. As far as them talking about they're gonna rejuvenate their sales by 2030, I definitely believe that, because 9 times out of 10 you're gonna have a new console on the market. They probably have gotten some sort of understanding that, like they said, thank God Starfield's gonna get more content next year. You have things like Fallout getting ready to come with a new game, Skyrim getting ready to come with a new game, Fable is going to have a game out by that time, State of Decay 3 is going to be out on the franchise. There's a lot of things that drive console sales their way. not just exclusives, but also the promise of new games that are coming out. So I do think they will be back to making money and all that by 27, 30 and stuff like that. Especially with a new console coming out. Typically, when you bring a new console out like that, it typically jumpstarts revenue and stuff. The next one, why I think I'm out on Blood of the Dawnwalker. Uh, in a small understanding of this. Hold on one second. What I was saying was why I'm with Blood of the Dawnwalker. To be honest, I feel like it looks like a very good game, but if I had to be honest, the the story seems a little wrongly built. Like I feel like when they say, okay, you have to choose between doing things to save your family or running missions, I'm like, that shouldn't be that way. I feel number one, I don't think you should have told us that you have to either do that. I think that should have been something that we figured out in game. I also read something where they're saying that I think one of the creators had said they don't really like massive open world games. They prefer dense, smaller maps. So I'm like, okay, so then that means this thing is not going to be as big as, say, an Assassin's Creed Odyssey game or Assassin's Creed game, which is a letdown. Number two, I feel like there's kind of like a clock running, like where it's like, okay, you have to hurry up and do this mission because they said something about like it got like a real time scale to it, where like as you're playing, there's what you call it? They said something where it's like as you're playing, there's like what do you call it? There's like a clock running where if you don't save your family in time, they die. But then if you don't save if you choose to worry about saving your family, that you have to ignore side quests and missions. So to me, it feels like trying to be too much. I think it looks good. I think it'll be the type of game where I definitely will probably watch it played on YouTube or TikTok or something like that. But at the same time, I don't think that that's going to be a game that I end up purchasing. And I wanted to bring it up because I did at one point say that I was interested in it. But now, like I said, I was waiting for more information to come out. And with the more information that came out, it kind of made me, especially with this jam-packed year the way it is and going into next year, it kind of was one of those purchases where I was like, I think I'll hold off on something like that. Uh, the next one. Why sports games are more RPGs nowadays and widely disrespected. First of all, one of the dumbest things I hear in the world is that sports games are casual. First of all, let me tell you something. If you cannot, all right, I'll give you an example. If you cannot bring the offense to the line, audible to play, audible for wide receivers, audible to halfback, drop back, and pick between four wide receiver options, being of three wide receivers, a tight end, and a halfback, or scramble out and keep the game going, and know all the players in the franchise and all the players in the entire league, then no, you shouldn't be playing that game. Just because of the fact that you don't understand what you're doing. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't play it outright, but you need to understand that these games run as an RPG now. Whether it's football, basketball, baseball, soccer, wrestling, whatever the hell it is, it does not run as back in the day in the early 90s where it's like you just turn it on and play. There's so many different RPG aspects to it. Whether or not the player wants warm weather, whether they want to play in warm weather, whether they want no income tax, whether they want to be number one on the depth chart, whether they want money, whether they want a mentor. Now you got the new aspects coming in Madden where a player can lock you out of contracts. They can hold out in camp. They can be mad that they ain't getting playing time. College football now has NIL money where you can use real life money because NIL money is basically real life money. You can use real life money to entice players to come to your franchise. They have one-on-one options for people that just want to do one-on-ones. They have Road to Glories and My Careers where you can do one player action where you're just on a team. This is no longer like, I guess for people that didn't play these games back in the day, you don't understand that these games don't operate like that anymore. Sports games are basically RPGs. That's why somebody like myself has, I think, about 650 hours into this year's Madden already, and it hasn't even, the new ones coming out. Now, do I have other hours in games? Yes, I have like 150, almost 200 hours in the Division. I have about 200 plus hours in Starfield. I have 100+ hours in multiple Assassin's Creed games. So it's not like I'm just playing sports games. The thing about it is, with sports games, they operate as an RPG. The disrespectful part is the fact when people try to come off like, well, casuals play sports games. That's not true. Because at the same time, it's not my fault that you're not good at it. And that's every time I hear something like that in the comment section, I was right. Like, are you good at the game? Do you know if I was to say who is the starting middle linebacker of the Browns? Forget who's the middle starting linebacker for the Eagles or the Rams or the Seahawks. Do you know who's the middle linebacker of the Browns? Do you know who, say, is the number 2 wide receiver of somebody like the Titans? Do you know the Titans quarterback? These are things anybody can know who was in the Super Bowl and hate on it because you don't know everybody else. But like prime example, I don't know nothing about soccer. I don't buy it. That doesn't mean I hate it. I understand that it's a very complex game, and the people that understand those characters and understand those players know how to play it. Same thing with baseball. There's a lot of people that play baseball that I love the Phillies. I got Phillies tattoos, love them to death. But I don't understand everything there is to be about baseball. That's why I don't buy the game. I stick mainly to football and basketball because those are the sports I've really, really grown up to paying attention to, and I understand. Do I know everybody in NFL? First of all, to answer those questions, the middle linebacker of the Browns is Carson Switzinger. The Titans quarterback is I forget his name there. I'm trying to remember his name right off the bat. I know he just got drafted, but I do forget his name. But yes, I know him. The number 2 wide receiver on a team like the Chiefs, or even as a Super Bowl team, would be Xavier Worthy, and a young boy behind him. Somebody like knowing all the trades and the information that's happened over the offseason. Yes, I know that Dexter Lawrence got traded from the Giants to the Bengals. I know that Trey Hendrickson made his way to the Ravens. I know that Max Crosby got traded from the actual Raiders to the Ravens and then back to the Raiders. I know that Vita Vea, one of my favorite players that I always pick up, now wants out of the Buccaneers. I know that Baker Mayfield today said that he feels disrespected from the Buccaneers. That's why I buy the games. Because of the fact that I understand the game, I understand the league. Just like people that buy soccer because they understand soccer, people that do the same thing for hockey, baseball, and UFC and things like that, they understand the sport. So don't feel as though that these games are just solely, people pressing buttons. These are RPGs now. Same thing with wrestling. I think wrestling's a great game that I'll probably pick up this Black Friday or whatever because I think it's a great game. I think that those games run as RPGs now. Do I think they're easy to play? No. I think that the controls are a little bit too complicated, but I do think that the story is very, very fun to play. So that might be something I pick up later. But I just wanted to say that, don't discredit sports games because you don't know how to play them. And that's not directed at us fellow gamers. That's directed at anybody that comes off that way. Because I could say the same thing about somebody that plays a story-driven game where all you do is hack and slash and then the story's over. I could say you're casual because you just keep doing the same thing all over and over and over again. Or you're playing some sort of like side scroller where you jump on a level, then jump to the next level. And I don't come off that way because I know there's just a complexity to it. And it's the same way with sports games. They're RPGs. They're not sports games. They're sports RPGs. That's something that we're going to coin here today too. Sports RPGs. The next one. Why Game Pass, and we're coming to the end as well too. Got like 1 or 2 topics left. Why Game Pass is important for the Xbox brand and should continue its course. When you buy a new console, the first hurdle that you have to jump across is what games you're going to play. Okay, and I think for people that play games on Xbox, I think buying an Xbox console and being given, even if it's a month to 3 months free of Xbox Game Pass, gives you 300 to 400 games right out the bat. Okay. And I think that that's very invaluable in this capacity that we're in as far as gamers. Now, I understand where y'all are coming from with the whole, wanting to money hack games or whatever you're calling it here, invest in the platform, but that's, essentially money hacking. I understand the whole money hacking games and stuff like that and bringing those games to the platform. But I think Game Pass needs to continue growing because it gives us the option to not buy the things that we are not fully 100% in on, but it gives us the option to buy the things that we are 100% on. Like Fable is going to be in Game Pass. I don't care. I'm still buying that game day one. Starfield was in Game Pass. I did not care. I bought that game day one. State of Decay 3 may be in Game Pass. I don't care. I'm buying that game day one. What else? Call of Duty is not anymore, but at one point Call of Duty was in Game Pass. Even if this game is going to be in Game Pass at some point, I don't care. I want that game day one so I can experience the story. So right there, I've already named 3 or so games that are coming out that are coming in Game Pass, but I'm still buying them, and a lot of people are. So that belief that Game Pass is doing something wrong or like ruining gaming is stupid, because I think it's a great option for those that maybe have different responsibilities and cannot, put themselves in a situation financially to buy every game that comes out. And I don't think they should be disrespected. I don't think that they should be downgraded. I don't think they should be punched on. It's like, just because they don't buy every game that comes out doesn't make them less than. And I don't think we should get rid of the service, because I do think it would hurt the brand. Because in all honesty, if you had to live off of just your studios, games take so long to come out. That's where Game Pass wins, because during those 2 or 3 years that you're waiting for a new game to come out, you can experience other games. Like, how many people have climbed into Starfield, Fallout, Skyrim? I heard something about Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 and 2 is in there. Plague's Tale is in there. You got NBA 2K26 for people that didn't get this year's NBA. Older WWE games, Fortnite, stuff like that. Grand Theft Auto, like, there's so much stuff in there that brings value to the system that I think this mentality here of people getting upset at Game Pass, I don't know where that's coming from. But I mean, not every game I play comes from Game Pass, but there are some games that I would have never gave a chance had there not been a Game Pass. The next one, and then the only one left is the bonus one. Why I'm putting more time into Skyrim. Myself personally, what I recognized was the Skyrim that I have on my handheld is not, the Skyrim PC version is different from the Skyrim version that's on my console. So probably what I'll do is only play the console version and just stream the Skyrim to my handheld, because I don't want to start over. I'm pretty sure there's something in Skyrim where I've already started the story and I'm already involved in it. I'm going to try to find that save. If I can find that save, then I will be bringing Skyrim back to the standard streaming standpoint, because I really like the game. I'm the type of person, as a content creator, I know a lot of people think, and I'm about to get you up out of here too. I know a lot of people think as content creators that we don't watch other people play games. That is a myth. Okay, that's yet another myth of gaming. One of the main things I do during streams, off of streams, while I'm eating, while I'm watching TV, a lot of times we'll watch games be streamed, so that way I can get a better understanding for it and know something about it that I didn't know. Like, take Skyrim, for instance. I've been watching so much Skyrim to understand that once you get further in the game and you expand your weaponry and you expand your powers and stuff like that, the game really opens up. And I love the fact that you don't have to play in first person. I'm not really a big first person like that. I did a lot of that. To be honest, every game was first person back in the day. Back in the early days, everything was first person. So to be in a situation now where you could play a game like Skyrim in third person, you could play, and bringing also into the Skyrim thing, Skyrim, Fallout. There's the 2 games I know I was putting time into that I'm going to make an effort to get more time into is Skyrim. I feel like that's the one game that I would say I have yet to see really be matched anywhere. The perfect balance between magic and swords and open world and customization and all that. I've tried. I've looked at the nothing against Assassin's Creed. They don't do magic like that. They're more, Assassin's Creed's more sword, and they have abilities, but it's not like fire and magic. And then you have the Hogwarts Legacy, which is very good, but it's also very puzzle heavy. Very good game. Definitely gonna get 2 when it comes out, but it's very puzzle heavy. Very like solve this puzzle to get to the next part. And then, at the same time, the story is epic. And from what I can tell, everybody really likes the game. So you always have that community around you to talk about it. So, I will be jumping more into Skyrim. So expect more content from, not jumping into it. I already have about 20 hours in, but that's probably going to jack up to probably over 50 to 100 in a period of time. especially with us not knowing that. I mean, we know that Skyrim and the new Fallout is coming. I mean, excuse me, we know that the new Elder Scrolls is coming and the new Fallout is coming, but we all know that that's not coming this year. So it's a good game to be into at that time. The last one we up out of here is a bonus. Where the gaming industry is headed, in my opinion. I feel like myself personally, we're headed more towards subscriptions, digital, and exclusives. Those are the three things that I think are going to take a major step forward in this new generation. Is subscriptions, be it to studios and they're not going to be forced subscriptions. They're not going to be the type of thing where you have to have the subscription to play a game. I think that a lot of studios like Ubisoft have created something that people are paying attention to because right after that, you have the MVP edition subscription, which I have. I will have Madden 27 in the next couple of days here, in about 4 or 5 days. You have things like EA Play, which gives me the option to have Madden 27 on my Xbox Rogue Ally X without having to pay full price, just basically paying $16. You have the subscriptions that came out for other stuff, right? As far as exclusivity goes, I think that we're definitely moving further and further back to the days where exclusive games were exclusive. And yeah, there are some games right now that are not exclusive, but I think that going forward, those games will be exclusive. As far as Elder Scrolls and Fallout, excuse me, do I feel that I would be upset if they were on another console? I'm not gonna be upset, but if they are exclusive, I understand it. Because when you make, like I said, when you review what I said, if you didn't go back to the beginning, when you have games like Spider-Man 1, Miles Morales, Spider-Man 2, Wolverine, Venom, all exclusive to your console, to me, I don't think there's anything wrong having a Elder Scrolls and a Fallout exclusive to your console. It's just like Nintendo saying we're not going to give you guys Pokemon on Nintendo, or Mario. I don't feel as there's any problem with that. So we'll have to wait to see how that goes and what ends up going down there. But like I said, I wanted to keep this around 5:30. We're kind of at that mark right now, at about almost a 3-hour mark. In closing statements, I would say I want to thank everybody again for watching the stream, popping in, listening to it on playback. Drop a like, watch more content. I will be playing a game after dinner tonight. I'm the type of gamer where I can feel it's like kind of how like with Blade, when you gotta take the serum, So what I'm gonna play, to be honest, I really want to play the playoffs. Because I am literally at the beginning of the playoffs in Madden. But at the same time, I am feeling like I want to get a little story in too. So I will make my mind up while I'm cooking dinner and eating dinner on what I am gonna play. But there will be a stream from the SR51 Media brand on this brand, excuse me, the SR51 Media Empire on TikTok in the next couple of hours. Give it about a good 2, maybe 3 hours or so, 3.5 hours or so from this stream. So if you came in and you watched the stream and you listened to it and stuff like that, count forward about 3 hours, 3.5 hours or so, and then there will be a stream on TikTok. It will be in the same side-to-side format. As far as another console announcement, there will no longer be up and down content available from the SR51 Media Empire, meaning that when you watch live streams, they will be in the side-by-side content as far as, whatever format you want to call it, side-by-side. No more up and down with the, screen on top and the screen on the bottom and all that crap. I do feel as though it also helps people be able to read the chat on TikTok. I also think it helps when you go to watch playbacks, being able to flip your phone to the side and taking over your whole phone screen. I also think that it's a great thing for playbacks as well as recording. In this stream, I will be running the thought of whether or not you can record the gameplay and then post it to YouTube. If it does not hold down the system in the sense of like if it does not hold down the system in the sense of making it skip or anything like that, then that's the format we will be using going forward. But like I said, I want to thank everybody for being here. I had a great time with you, great conversation, as of course. I am going to go cook me some dinner for me and the family, and then I will see you later in stream. Have a good rest of your day. Stay blessed, stay safe, stay gaming. Stay having fun, stay positive, and remember, this is the SR51 Media Empire, where you never know what's behind the next load screen. Peace.